there's confusion over time zones and something since going in now. I think it's the. Bob, you want to give it? Oh,
And I can hear you, but not very good.
okay, there, we got speakerphone on.
Now I can hear you.
Okay. Hey, Bob, the floor is yours.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the time. I think Joe gave you guys a picture, is that correct? And a little note, agreement? And I just forwarded that so you wouldn't have to dig and read through, pages of notes. In purple there, it's just kind of a reminder that we had an agreement that on the west side of our road, you guys, the county was gonna rip wrap it and then put gravel on it, and, just to refresh you on the story, I had Russ Waller do our road, and the air part was done kind of the same week, and that, as soon as I got home that day, I called and said, this is not near enough, this is material needed, and there wasn't any gravel at all. And now that I kind of waited this spring because we had so much snow last year, and, I know everybody would have said that, but I again. So now all we're asking is just simply to do what you promised to do, and 5% of that road is completed. We did it, and the road is there, the dirt is 100% kind of there, needs a little touch up, and I did, Dan and I did completely on the east side, and what we call a private drive, or you guys call it private drive. And probably half of it more stuff, or you guys are supposed to do it, we're going, so we paid money to fix the county road, and it's, a little frustrating doing taxes, I paid a lot more, double to fix the county road than what we paid in taxes. So what I'm asking today is for you to complete, we kind of ran out of roads on the west side there, I said leave that for last, and that's not done. And, when the job was completed, I don't think anybody really went and looked at it, and we called and looked at you guys out, but it wasn't, and they're just to do it, finish it, wouldn't take much, and gravel it, because you promised to gravel it, there's no gravel at all there. And, maybe a wheelbarrow put out there, but there's no gravel on it now. And I believe Dan Materi, are you in the room?
Yeah, Dan's here.
Dan was out there and looked at it recently, just in the last week or two or whatever. And I believe Don Edwards was also out there, I'm not sure, but so they seen, that there's no gravel in the field there. I also took a picture of me standing in where the big void is. And that's after we already fixed the line, some of the rock there, you see, we put in. But anyway, so that's my question. I guess I'm just asking if you guys would do what you promised.
Well, I think, we already did some of that road or whatever, and I know in the agreement it does mention something about maintaining a certain stretch of that road, so. The trouble's gonna be right now is just finding the time and the manpower, so even if we do it, I can't really promise you a date or anything on it, but I can probably get added to the list, just some of that stuff, just that small piece that we already fixed once, I guess, or whatever, I don't know, but.
Well, it's semantics of it, let's say you fixed it once and, it's short with anybody, but it never was really done. That's what I'm saying. It just wasn't done properly, and I think we're gonna know the old person that's not there anymore. And classify it and just say it was done. But it wasn't. So, if you tell me you got, just give me your word, you'll get to it, hopefully next month, or, don't have to be this week or today, but, sometime in a reasonable amount of time, because we kind of want to finish it, and to be honest, right now, without any gravel at all in there, it's very dangerous. My dad drives a little Blazer, he's 81 years old. If we get 10 hundreds of rain and he comes down that hill, what's on there is clay, it's extremely greasy, you guys don't know that, it's not rocket science, you can slide right in there and flip that thing upside down, and, it really needs to be done, and it cost me a lot of money to do that county road to this point, so I don't think it's, if you just say you'll do it, fine. I'm good with it, I don't need a date, just, a reasonable amount of time.
Is that the only thing we need to do is put gravel on? The rest of it would be all right then?
Well, the west, the rock is almost all done. The east side, I would say it's probably completely done. Maybe you could use one dump over there, it was a little thin. The west side is where we need rock. I don't know, 5, 10 loads, whatever, it wouldn't take much, you know, whatever. And then the gravel, yeah, so there is some brick that needs to be brought in. Francis Trump put some there, we put a lot more, maybe double what he put in there, and it still needs some. Not a lot. I don't know, I mean, I can't, it's hard to say until you start dumping in there, you side dumping. I'm guessing 6, 8 loads, you know, is all we need, but you got rock and a lot. I have all kinds of rock that I offered in the past, but I'm sure you guys have rock too, so. Yeah, just the rock on the west side, you know, within the weather, west side, brick rock, finish that, and gravel, put gravel on it. You know, that's what your letter said, there's no gravel, there's no gravel. No. Right, Dan, you can confirm that there's no gravel there.
I didn't see much, I mean, you know, it's not a big deal with the holes that are there. It's a liability, Barn. I wasn't part of this, you know.
Yeah. I think Don Everly, were you out there? Did you see it?
Yeah, I was out there, Bob, but you know, I guess you're probably not gonna like what well, I mean, there was probably a little on there, but I mean, you know, that water washed up and probably washed some of it off, the stuff they put on already, but you're probably not gonna like what I have to say, but I guess I feel like, you know what, we did what we said we were gonna do. We told you how many loads of rock we're gonna put in, we told you how many loads of gravel we're gonna do, and that's kind of what was done. We told you right away that, you know, if the water comes up, this is not gonna work to begin with, so, but this is all we're gonna do, and that was it. And, you know, we got other people that got the same situation. Well, if we do this and do that, and, I mean, we kinda told you what was gonna happen, and what we would do, and that's kinda what I feel, but I mean, I guess. Well, we told you we're gonna haul so many loads of rock in there, and that's what he did. I don't know, remember how many loads of rock Francis hauled in there, but he said he'd give you so many loads of rock and so many loads of gravel, and we're gonna call that good, and that's it. We're not gonna do anymore, because it doesn't make sense for us to build up this road anymore if it's gonna wash out again. So that's kinda what we did.
For 4 years, you got. You're gonna take in there. You just said, that's when I printed the form, you see the purple highlight, it says over 2 inches of gravel. Okay, put 2 inches of gravel, because, you know, there's in there.
I,
I mean, it's very.
I can't say exactly how many loads of gravel.
Real close is same day. Francis decided what was in there the next day, and his road didn't wash out. He used more road, did a better job, did more dirt, and he did it right, and it didn't wash out. Thing, right there. Very obvious.
Well, that's my opinion, Bob, I guess, I don't know, but.
Okay, well, Aaron, you tell me you'll do it, you'll finish, you know, what the winter says, then fine, we're done. If, you know, if there's, I don't know, if there's some controversy, questions, I mean, is there anything else somebody's wondering? I mean, Dave or Dan or Aaron, do you guys have any questions about this? It's very straightforward.
Well, that's what I thought, it was straightforward, we did what we said we were gonna do, you signed a contract, and that was it.
Well, what I should have done is, you guys go do the job, and then sign the contract, but that's it, you guys have to sign first. And then it's like, and there was, no, there was.
Well, the reason we wanted you to sign a contract, Bob, was because, we knew that road had to come up another 10 feet or more before, if the water ever came up that high, so we're wasting a bunch of taxpayers' money if we keep, every time it rains or it gets a foot higher, then we gotta build it up again. So that's why we decided to do that time.
Well, I mean, the worry about it, of course, every road in the county could flood, and there's a lot of water there. Could that one flood? Yeah, I was worried over the winter, the water could flood. It might not. we got somebody living there, you know? This is a person who lived there since 1964, and for 57 years, that road was kept up by the county. Last year, you commissioners decided not to do it. And I was even after the road flooded, I was told for a full year that that road would be, all of it, by you guys. A full year afterward, you guys changed your mind, we went from there. I fixed the inside of the road, you guys were gonna fix the section line. Might it flood again? Of course. That big wash rain in Hamilton last summer. Did you fix those roads? Of course, you fixed them all. Might they flood again? Of course. I mean, you can't kind of play favorites and say, hey, you live on a hill, so we're gonna fix your road.
I know, but this is a lake, we're talking about a lake here, Bob. We're talking about a lake though.
Right, well, I mean, just to sum up the, the agreement here, there's several parts that, like one here, it says that the owner, which is basically the Bowmans, you or your dad, or whoever's involved, understands that the county will not expend any future funds or resources to build, fix, stabilize, maintain, or otherwise improve or preserve the access road, including the portion located on the section line. But then it also stipulates in item number 4, the project specifications, which says that the county will be responsible for riprapping, graveling the portion of the access road that is located on the section line approximately 400 feet. So my assumption is that item number 4 is related to the specific project we agreed to, but then afterwards, it states in here that the owner understands that the county will not expend any future funds or resources, build, fix, stabilize, maintain, or otherwise improve the access road.
Exactly.
And then it also says on here too, in item number 5, under general road maintenance, that the county may, from time to time, at its sole discretion, blade or maintain the road. Any such action does not create a duty to continue such maintenance. So, I mean, basically, it kind of seems like here that we have no obligation to do it, but we can do it if we want to. So, and if we do it one time, we don't have to do it forever either. So, I mean, I guess the argument or the solution to that would be is right now you got what you got, and if anything, you can get added to the list that's growing by the day due to our lack of manpower and our, weather situation. I mean, it's something that probably could get gravelled, but I don't think there's any kind of a timeline, and I don't think there's any kind of a guarantee that it would get gravelled. So I think you can kind of just take that as you want, Bob. I mean, I don't really know what else to say when it comes to that. I mean, I know we put gravel on that road, and I know we put rock on that road, and we did what we said we were gonna do, and it was agreed to, and there's a signed agreement. I mean, disagreement over the quality of the work, I guess is, that's just basically one opinion versus another on that. I know there's a couple roads in the county right now that would probably do a backflip if we put multiple loads of rock and a load or two of gravel on their road right now that are underwater. So I mean, there's just a lot of responsibilities in the county right now, Bob, and if you haven't even driven right now, it's probably a better case than some of these other folks. So I mean, I'm not really saying no, I'm just telling you that there's a lot of work to go on in the county. I don't think any timeline would be possible to give you right now. So, I mean, if there's an opportunity to fit it in or something, it might be a possibility, but right now I really can't say yes or no. Really, other than the fact that this agreement says we can do it, but we're under no obligation. So, I mean, if you want a quicker solution, you might have to just do it yourself. In that case, like you did with the riprap, because we're just really behind on work right now, looking to fix those solutions, but we have no timeline on those solutions to arrive either. So, as far as
In a certain way, I want you to understand, I didn't really tell them that the week this job was done, I called you guys and whoever, and I said, there is no chance, that this road can stand up what's on here. You need, this is just incomplete. And that's been my piece since day one. Yeah, we're gonna come out, we're gonna just watch the right when we go, and they were there. So 11, we put in 4 hours out there. This wasn't a 3-day or a week job. This is a question, and now that it's almost done, you just take very little to finish. And go there with through the morning and noon, you're done at lunch. Like, right.
well, I mean, right, but with all due respect, Bob, on this, you said it was an easy project before when we did it. And now that easy project didn't have enough time and enough material and enough effort into it, so when you say things like, oh, that's an easy project to do, you kinda said that already once before, we did that, and now it's not good, so. I'm not gonna sit here, I don't think anybody really wants to argue about this much more, Bob, we've spent a lot of time on this. We really, I mean, we have an agreement in place. If there's an opportunity for us to do something we think to improve the road or make it better, we should probably do that, but right now, that road is probably a lot more drivable than a good portion of roads in the county that we really need to call a lot of attention to at the moment, so I don't think that, I mean, it's.
Let me ask you, and here's the last thing I'm gonna ask you guys, because I was told the same thing, that we'll get to our road when we get to it. For over a year, my dad had to drive through a muddy field to get it out of his yard, and then for a full, almost a year and a half. Then you guys, so, sit for another year, so what you five to do, take 30 seconds. They should just put it through a hole. What you want to do, what the letter says, and do it, I don't know, it don't have to be in a month, just say, it's 2 months, it's on, something. Because if we don't put a date on it, you'll just keep pushing it off, like you did, it ends up being a year and a half, and then it switches from maybe to no. So I don't need 5 to vote on it. You know, that you'll do what the letter says.
Well, it's hard to put it, it's hard to put a date on it, Bob. I'm for, going there and trying just to finish it, but at the same token, it's hard to put a date on when we're gonna get there. Even if we say 2 months, we don't know. We get a rainstorm or destroy other roads, I mean, it's hard to put a date on it. We're hoping to get there by before winter, yeah, I agree, but I don't wanna put a date on it.
Right, well, I mean, just
Just
even,
give me a word that you'll do it, then fair enough.
well, I mean, we got a family driving through a field right now up by Braddock too, that's a no different a situation, I mean, it happens with roads that go underwater, it's an inconvenience to a lot of people. I mean, currently you do have a road right now, you are driving on it, so, I mean, for all the insults on work being done on it, it is a completed road and it is being driven on, so. I mean, now that I'm.
Understand, 100% done, not on the county.
100%, I thought, so now we went from, we did a bad job and now we didn't do any of the job, I don't, see, Bob,
Any of the dirt.
we've entertained these conversations so many times, Bob, and it ends up at the same spot, I mean, really, it's not going anywhere. If you want it done any sooner, or you wanna put a timeline on it, you're probably gonna have to do it yourself and improve it yourself. There's other people improving their roads out there themselves the best they can. The county is shorthanded right now, we're lacking the resources to do the work that we even need to really get done, let alone some of these other projects. It's not personal, but I'm gonna have to be a little demanding in the sense that you're either gonna have to be patient, or you're probably gonna have to come up with a resolution on your own, because it's just not high on the priority list right now when it's a functioning road versus people that have roads that are literally underwater right now, so. I think I mean, there's not gonna be a timeline put on it, we're not gonna vote to get your specific project done in your specific timeline. It'll get added to the list at best, and if an opportunity arises where we're in the area, where it works out, and we're not just egregiously behind on other responsibilities, it may get done, but I am not gonna put any kind of promise to that, I don't think anybody else is going to either.
I think we know that depends on the weather and it comes and goes. Whole month or longer to do 90,000, you have all kinds of time to do the full job.
Yeah, all the other jobs need priorities too, and other roads need work on, your road's not the only one, Bob, so. We've been through these discussions before, you don't seem to understand, so I think I'm just gonna have to remind you that you're just gonna have to be patient, and it'll get done in its due time if it gets done, and we're under no obligation to do it per this agreement. And if we want to do it, we have the opportunity to do it, we may do it, and that's all I can really tell you at this point. Unless we can get 4 or 5 guys hired all of a sudden to get caught up with a bunch of work, I don't think there's any promises that anything will be done on your road anytime soon. I think that's, unless I'm wrong, feel free to correct me guys, that's,
No, I agree.
so, that's where I'm at, so.
Just to clarify what you said, I mean, dirt, the dirt road was done 100% by town. Dirt, the rock, you guys did some rock.
Mm-hmm.
Rock.
Okay,
But when I said, it's the physical road, the dirt part.
alright, well, that's fine, that was a misunderstanding then, that's good enough, but we have another agenda items, Bob, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to move on, so.
Okay.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Okay. Alright, so the item that was at 115 was gonna be, it says assistant state's attorney, but what it is was assistance to the state's attorney to provide legal present representation involving proposed Summit Carbon Solutions project. So it's kind of a two-fold agenda item in the sense that, it seems to be that Summit's project, at least in South Dakota and parts of Iowa, is that basically anything they disagree with, they're basically filing a lawsuit with, whether that's private landowners or government subdivisions. And, we've had public hearings. I think we all know how most people in this county feel about this project. I think our setbacks and ordinances have reflected that. And I think if we are the body that is doing what people expect us to do with that kind of input, then I think we need to probably stand firm on our ordinances and our setbacks. Summit recently filed a motion, I believe it might have been right almost before the PSC hearing on Friday. They want the PSC to consider Emmons and Logan's, or Emmons and Burley's setbacks and ordinances null and void that we've done over the last couple of months here. So,
So how can they do that?
but I really don't understand exactly how it's all going. And as far as what kind of standing or the authority the PSC is on that specifically, and I know Joe with his workload and he just is not an expert in this type of field when it comes to the property rates and no offense to Joe, or it's just not his expertise. I've had conversations with Joe, and I've asked him if we should consider just having some legal assistance by somebody who basically knows how to respond to these kinds of things and can guide us along with our responses so that we're doing the best foot forward for the county. So I reached out to Derek Broughton with Broughton Law Firm. He's out of Bismarck. If you guys are familiar with the Northwest Landowners Association at all, or any of the work they've done, he basically represents them, but he's basically an expert in the field of property law and major commercial projects like this. He's worked on the DAPL projects and other stuff. And so I had a few conversations with him and asked him if he would be willing to just basically be available in Emmons County, whether we retain him, so that way when we get letters that have to be responded to, a lot of this stuff has to be responded to in 20 days, 30 days, 45 days. And, we've passed some strict ordinances and setbacks, and that's put a lot of pressure on our state's attorney, obviously, because he's the one that's got to defend it. So I felt like it's only right to give Joe some help in that sense and to best defend our decisions and yeah. So the Broughton Law Firm is willing to come on and ask. There's no retainer fee. They would just bill us on the hours they put into it. I have no idea what it would cost or egregious, but it's probably gonna cost some money. I don't know if we even need them. I don't know if there'll be lawsuits, I really don't. But I think it's pretty obvious that one, they don't respect our ordinances, our setbacks, and two, they have made their intentions known that they will file a lawsuit on you for anything that they don't agree with. There's one thing with our ordinances setbacks, I can pretty much guarantee if the PSC grants them a permit, some kind of lawsuit shortly after, I think so. And so I think we really don't have any commitment other than just telling you that we want to be on board, and you can probably start doing a little bit of work looking into our ordinances so he's familiar with this stuff. And basically he would just be prepared if Joe or the county gets served with any kind of papers, forward it on to him, and Joe and he would be working together to defend Emmons County as needed.
Cause they were going after Victor the other night up at that PSC here, that last one,
Yeah.
Fitzgerald Law Firm.
They're going hard at the PSC and things like that, but we're gonna be their next focus if they get a PSC permit, and it's gonna be It's gonna be busy, I can say that, I mean, they're gonna probably serve us with a lot of paperwork and
Oh, yeah.
force us to prove any of the stuff we've done, and
Yep.
I feel like our public testimony and input that we've had is enough of a mandate for us as elected officials to do what we've done, but we're gonna need help, and it's no different than what our conversations have been earlier today. You're gonna go put all this work on a state's attorney office of two, it's gonna be asking a lot, just like anything else, so, I think the proper step forward would be to bring on Rob Moffler and to represent Emmons County if needed. So, I think we need that in the form of a motion to get it done, and then I think just Joe or I would formally request that he basically stand at the ready if we need him. So,
I'll make a motion to go ahead with the firm.
okay, Commissioner Holm makes a motion, seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more questions? Any more discussion on it? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. So, looks like I just got handed a letter here from Kelly Schmidt, who's the Dickey County Recorder. It says, "Good morning." I have an interesting one this AM. Dickey County Commission has made the motion to, and passed a withhold easement approval with any company or entity that is under investigation by the North Dakota Attorney General's Office. There was a meeting in Burley County at 6/5/23, which the Burley County Commission voted for the North Dakota Attorney General to investigate the ownership of Summit Parking Solutions as per House Bill 1135 and Senate Bill 2370. So that would be part of the other question as far as talking about legal matters in regards to Summit is, I don't remember which House Bill, which Senate Bill exactly laid out which part. Basically, one of them designed. Well, this is that, so the North Dakota, there's a group of legislators that asked for official inquiry investigation on Summit's investors, because based on these House and Senate bills, basically the state of North Dakota has agreed that we don't want foreign adversaries investing in these major projects, especially when there's land holdings, easements, et cetera. So the Burley County Commission, basically, the Attorney General said that he would look into it if he's requested to by County Commission. He said the more the merrier. Burley County did it last night, and I think we should probably stand with them too and ask again, basically, for that investigation to be done, because it's kind of similar to the fake corn milling plant up in Grand Forks. To find out that countries that don't exactly like us that are investing in these big projects and holding land in our counties in our state. And I don't think it's very agreeable for us, so that second part to that, basically that agenda item was to see if somebody wanted to make a motion and a second to investors of Summit Carbon Solutions based on these House and Senate things.
I'll make a motion to take that.
So Commissioner Materi makes a motion for Emmons County to request Attorney General Wrigley to investigate the investors in Summit Carbon Solutions. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Commissioner Holmes. Any more discussion on that subject? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
You're gonna keep that one.
This one? This is the one thinking on? So, oh, I got an email. Okay. 'Cause yeah, this is the letter, so the legislative last Tuesday.
Commissioner May, there's another, second page to that email, about clarification of some of it.
On the Dickey County one?
You just got
Just
one.
wanted to clarify, this paragraph, clarify.
Okay, so it says after getting two different opinions, I went to the commissioners to clarify the motion. They said just to be sure that the county itself will not sign or approve any easements with any company that is being investigated. Thank goodness the responsibility to track said companies is not on my shoulders. The Dickey County Commission is not telling you to not approve the documents for recording, but it's saying the commissioners basically aren't going to approve your sign. You can record, the commissioners are not approving plats, easements, anything by a company that's under investigation. Okay. So then I guess the question is, if we're asking for an investigation, I would probably ask you to follow the same things and bring them to our attention if they're being filed. So basically, well,
So it's our discretion.
well, I think the difference between recording and approval is two different things, because we generally don't approve easements and things like that. So, I mean, if you're recording them, unless we're gonna actually deny the easements being recorded, essentially, it's nothing I know. That's why I'm kind of confused about this, and so like, does the Dickey County Commission approve these easements? So I would say if anything, our approval or disapproval would probably come with some kind of a permit pertaining to those easements. You know, I mean, you know what I mean, I don't,
What did the first letter say?
Once they're recorded, they're like the document, whoever gets it a record first, right?
well, that's what I'm kind of confused about, is that withhold easement approval with any company or entity that is under investigation by North Dakota Attorney General. So, when I notify companies that I won't be able to record their easements until the investigation is passed, I will keep informed on companies that are under investigation.
So you can't record them
They
until,
can't record them under investigation.
they can't be
I
recorded.
mean, that kind of seemed, I mean, to me, it's kind of confusing, because it says here that, commission is not telling me to not approve the documents for recording. I mean, we don't really approve easements, I guess, I mean, unless they, so I don't, that's kind of. I guess I don't really respond to
I would say it can't be recorded as long as they're under investigation.
well, I mean, that would be, if you were gonna do something, that would be something to do. As long as they're under investigation, you don't have to record an easement.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can do that, I don't know, like, that's maybe,
Anita, what do you know as far as recording?
I'm just wondering if what she's asking is if their commissioner approves that nobody can, file an easement on a company that is being under investigation, if the commissioner wants the reporter to follow that rule. You know, if you make a motion saying that if there's a company that is under investigation by the Attorney General and they want to file easements, that the reporter follow that rule stating that we do not file any easement until that investigation.
Right.
Is, I think, is what this reporter is getting. Is
right,
what
that's what,
he's
well, that's
saying.
what was confusing when they said that the commission is telling me that not approve the
See, and I don't know.
recording.
That if document comes in and it meets our reporting requirements, we report it.
Correct.
That we are not the police, and if there's an argument, they do it in court, in civil court.
I mean, I could understand the scenario like with plats, we approve the plat, so if we didn't want to approve. If a stipulation, something to be marked, whatever, but, I mean, I don't really know, especially a lot of these easements, if they're signed by two parties.
And the thing is, how we was reporters if that
If they're
company is
under
under investigation.
That you don't.
You don't, unless we call the Attorney General, but they can be under investigation in another state.
Well, and what dictates I mean, Chem Electric could be under investigation by the Attorney General on something, not even having, you're not gonna not record it easily, like that. That to me is a little confusing, I can understand that they're obviously trying to basically say they're not gonna approve nothing until the investigation's clear, but what determines an investigation by the North Dakota Attorney General, because there could be lots of investigations that are, I mean, they might even be minute things nobody cares about, it's something totally different. I think that seems like that's a little vague.
What do you think, Jeff? Chief?
I don't think you can do that, but
You can.
I don't see any authority. I'm gonna read the recorder's century code
I
regulations.
would say that discussed at a later time further. Is that,
It's just when Summit Solution files for easements. They refer to exhibit B, there was never an exhibit B, then they come back, they corrected easement saying that they're withdrawing exhibit B from the first reporting, well, once it's reported, we can't withdraw it.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going on, there are easements when they file.
So why are they doing it?
I even asked someone to go in the commissioners meeting and downstairs, where this exhibit B is. Because what the exhibit B is the map of where the pipeline leads.
They wouldn't file
In their
that.
comment, they came back and said that the whole project is, they're gonna file one easement that shows the whole outlay of the pipe.
Yeah.
So then, exhibit B and your easements would be filed.
well, their exhibit D wasn't legal because it wasn't like an accident service, it wasn't stamped. It was just like a hand drawing, or like you said, like a general drawing, but there was no stamp.
So what wouldn't it be?
Product, get something recorded.
Isn't it,
So
So it's a
first
record.
easement with exhibit B and they had a little certificate, stamp, signature, and we refused it. And then they came back without it.
Right.
well, isn't it,
It's about, they said report it without it.
well, can you do that?
It was legit, so we recorded it, but we put it in the notes. No exhibit B attached.
You would think that'd be
We
fraudulent.
log notes all over.
This sounds like
Yeah.
not good.
Well, I don't know if there's anything we can,
Well, I think recording documents that are incomplete or false would be wrong.
Right. You-
But who's to determine?
Who's the one who determined
But
that
if
for
you
us?
but if you had exhibit D and there is none, I wouldn't record it until you provide me with proper documentation.
Except if they, you know, we can't review the whole document and make sure everything is all correct. As long as they have the proper, follow the century code and follow the format and stuff, and we can record it. It's up to them if they want to, if they leave it incomplete and not file it, that's up to them. Now they're filing, the easements now that they're filing, they file an exhibit B and it says, exhibit B is a map, it's on record, we're not gonna file it. That's what their exhibit B says.
At what their discretion. You know? Just so. It's not good.
I mean, legally, can you do that, Joe?
They file an easement that doesn't have a proper description.
Right.
Well,
I don't really
it's not
see any
the
problem with
proper
it. It
Yeah, but I
leaves
mean,
open
is-
plenty of litigation. I mean, obviously, they have a legal description on there that's indexable because they know where to put it. You might not know the exact location, but I think that's part of the negotiation, which is, they don't know the exact location yet either. They just wanna lock down a tract of land to put the pipe on, which is when I've reviewed these, that's exactly what I'm told. Who've asked me to review them is, you don't know where that pipe's gonna go. And until they, put a surveyed, description on there of exactly where it's gonna go and put language in there that they can't, move off that site, you're just kind of hoping it's gonna be where you guys have had conversations. But that's just, again, that's part of the reason why a lot of people aren't signing them. Because they wanna know, and a lot of landowners here have realized that after the wind towers have ended up in different locations than maybe they were promised, that turbine.
No point of beginning and no meets and bounds, nothing said.
Yep.
It's an open easement. Section 27, 13176 is part of this easement description. But you don't know if it's here or if it's over here till it's a final deal. Like Joe just said, it's misleading.
well, I think that might be something that, as we continue on, we might have to look into the recordings too, I guess, and make sure that that's,
Not a
it's
bad
probably
idea.
not, I mean, if there's certain things that are missing like that, they're skirting the law or something, I guess it might be something to
Right,
look into, but.
not a bad idea, I mean,
So, check, so I guess that's fine. Okay, But yeah, other than that, I mean, those pretty much fill the agenda items there on that part of the discussion, so, Steve Heising is coming in at 2:00.
He's here now.
He is, well, if they're here, they can come in early if they want, because otherwise we're. Ton of stuff to discuss, that's only 10 minutes, so.
What else we got left?
That's it, other than the pay scale wage discussion.
That Kevin Evenson deal, I don't know, whatever happened there, but.
Yeah, I've reached out to, I think, 4 companies. I think May 2nd was when I contacted most of them. Only one company has come down to look at it, Aero Services. They sent somebody down a couple weeks ago, and looked at the property. They were gonna send me an estimate. So I emailed them this morning to see, you know, do we have a timeline on the estimate? And she responded this afternoon and said that she would try to see if she can get it expedited for us. Just waiting, nobody wants to do it, so.
Mr. Heisby is here, but he's waiting for about 5 other individuals to arrive too. Okay. So he'd like to wait for them.
So we don't know for sure when that will happen.
You know, unless you guys wanna, and I know Skylar's already lost a guy, so I'm sure you guys don't wanna do it yourselves, but,
No, we don't want.
nobody wants to do this job. It's just, it is what it is. I'm hoping that these guys will at least give me a survey or an estimate. It sounds like they're willing to do it, so thankfully I got one. Nobody locally wanted to do it. Trash Incorporated didn't wanna do it, so.
Skylar, that Knoll Road, were you gonna take a look?
Yeah, I can take a look at it.
Do you want his cell number or something, to talk to him at all?
Yeah. I can get it done.
Brandon Saint, 321-1340.
Awesome. Come on, this doesn't remember your boss.
Style, take a look at that, all the way up and down, maybe, west.
The blade operator's on it.
Are they? Okay.
But you gotta go with it.
Only commissioners for.
If you guys want to sit on something, just
Oh, is that the Commissioners Association?
sit on it.
Yeah, you guys looking for another job, sit on another board, there you go, you can go to that county commissioners.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, you don't just get the job, you get the problem with it. You just assume because it's going to your head, that you're gonna be on the association, or the association, and not the commission. It's not how to proceed with dozens and dozens of county commissioners, spending even more time on that work.
So there's, Joanne Gloss that keeps calling, what am I supposed to tell her, because we're not doing
You
anything?
talk about 87th Street?
Yeah, it's out there where,
Yeah. Well, I think it's kinda similar to the conversation with Bob Bauman. Right now, we need to focus on just our general maintenance right now, and we're having a hard time even getting that done, so I think.
But she said she's gonna, if she's gonna build it, if we're not gonna do it, they're gonna build up the road, but they're gonna close it off. And Mike Paul's got land back there he's gotta get to, so.
Well, they can't close it off with a section line, so and it's just not being maintained up to their standards, and that's probably disappointing for them, but we just. Right now, we just don't have the ability to, we can't even maintain it right now, we're supposed to be maintaining, we're fault project, so. I think any of these extra type of roads, extra maintenance that hasn't even been happening for 20, 30 years, they're gonna have to be patient and find another solution, and if they do build it up, they're gonna commissioners to improve that section line, and if they improve it, it's still public travel, so. There's not really much to discuss on that.
So we tell her that?
Yeah, tell her that. Sure it's gonna go over real quick. I mean, it just like I said, it's like anything, guys, the first way to get out of a hole is to stop digging, it's pretty cold right now. It's just not, I mean, it's not that I don't wanna do it or out, just until we can get more people on board and focus on the projects that we're having folks come in and deal with, it's hard to do. Just can't be done.
Joe, you consider a CDL?
Well, I think it's more difficult nowadays. I miss my.
Really? Because I class B forever, but I'm just getting class A someday, and change the rules, I got, is it a 2-week course now? $7,500 at BSC is the closest one right now. You can go into groups of like 3 or 4, and you'll take it, not leave either, you take like a week of theory and a week of driving. And then you still have to pass the test. You take the course, but then you still have to take your TOT test too, so there's no guarantee you'll get your CDL, you could, like, take it 3 tries, if you know, you can drive it. So. It's pretty expensive, you know, I mean, that's the thing, it's.
Oh, that worked out in the police for the sheriff's department, like, we put load restriction on these gravel roads. You get a CDL license, you could be out there kind of patrolling these roads right outside.
Well, I thought that's when we changed the courthouse rules and then we were closing at 2, wasn't it, because everybody's gonna take an afternoon shift, right? I mean, pitch in here, it's a team effort. Well, the guy's gonna come in, I mean, it's almost 2 o'clock, well, I mean, they can wait in here too, but we can wait.
The other road is Scotty.
Well, Scotty's is kind of the months too, there, it probably does need some gravel, I mean.
I think there too, we did what we told them we're gonna do, and that's it.
So,
Scotty's got.
You wanna know what they're here for?
Sure.
I'm wondering if you got a plan for our roads, because they're just about shot. They're unrepairable if something will happen pretty soon. And you know, there's an old saying, if you don't plan, you fail to, if you don't plan to fail, you will fail. Yeah, what is your plan to do with our roads? I mean, I think Dan's driven over some of them, but unless you drive over them in the rain, we get 15, 20 they're impassable with a car. And I don't know how you're gonna fix it. It's gonna take money and gravel. You know, I have a lot of people keep calling me all the time, but now nobody shows up.
I'm somebody.
No, sorry.
I mean, it's so dead down there, every guy.
So that's what we're here for.
But we had a group in from Cattail this morning, similar concerns, I don't think it's lost on any of the commissioners or even the road department that we're behind, right? And
But you need a plan.
right, well, the plan is like what we talked about in the last item on the agenda here, is that our first order of business is we need to really assess what we're paying. We need to probably raise some of our wages, we're not getting applicants right now, so that's our big thing, we're shorthanded and getting applicants. There was, when we hired Justin in January, we did offer the job to another individual too, who didn't take it. We were gonna hire 2 guys at that time, we ended up getting 1, and then right, we hired that guy, and another guy quit. And then now we just found out we had another guy quit yesterday. So we're down to 5 blade operators right now, so I mean, our first order of business is to try and fill ranks. The second thing we talked about is we either need to look at probably contracting or see if we can bring on some seasonal help, if we have local guys that are willing to drive a truck or even any kind of equipment. We're entertaining the idea of bringing them on.
Over the years, there's been mistakes made, we lost all that gravel, Campbell County down by the state line, that was a mistake. Last year, you guys left that Crumble, he was a good grader, man, and he had permission, you could have kind of scolded him, but not did what you did. Things like that, they affect you down the road. Now look at the short of grader, man, and, you better pray it don't rain the rest of the summer, unless you're farming. Because every little rain, it just gets under people's skin. I know you probably can't help it, but you gotta have a plan. And like you said, you're gonna address it. Hope.
Well, I mean, that's the plan right now, and there's not really much else to do other than just.
Maybe we're only once a month.
I think-
You have to talk it over more than once a month, yeah.
I think mostly it's gravel, right, Steve? I mean,
Yeah, they need gravel
mostly it's
before they can do anything. I mean, we got a good grader, man. Man, he can do a good job that from Pollard. Cody the Coyote, we call him. He's a good operator, but he can blade him, and a week later, or a rain later, and they're just the same thing. The grass road is another bad road. Holy cow. There's a few other ones, it's just, they're impassable.
They're gonna end up rotary mowing these roads, the
What's that?
shoulders, they're gonna end up rotary mowing these shoulders.
Yeah.
Before they can even blade them, with all that grass that's coming in.
That's true too. Well, that's just my concern.
They need gravel down there, I know.
Like I said, if you don't plan, you know, you will fail. And we're losing out, the county yourselves here. It's a hard thing to get ahead of this ballgame now. And I'm not here to scold you, I'm just here to let you know how we feel. I have a lot of people coming, but I got one supporter. She drives the roads every day, she likes to drive.
I travel with machinery and men, and the roads are horrible. I go all the way out to 1804, and it's usually a daily thing, wherever direction we're farming in. And I mean, they could kill somebody. These roads are bad, and this winter there were 3 emergencies out west where they couldn't get people out. There was a stroke, there was another problem, and you know, somebody's gonna have to give an account one of these days for these roads, and if these people can't get out. It's getting to that point, or they're dangerous for people to drive on. You can go 30 miles an hour most of the time, 30 miles an hour. And, you know, it's just getting to the point where it's almost impossible. 1000, like Steve said, we can't drive. We cannot drive. We're better off driving in the ditch than on the road. And we were in New Zealand and Australia this winter, and we were in the outback. They have paved roads. We are like a third world country here, out where we live. Third world. That's how bad those roads are out there. And granted, this pipeline is something that needs to be addressed, but these county roads down here are dangerous. They're dangerous.
Are we short of funds to make things better?
No, I mean, I don't think it is. I think like we explained to the Cattail guys before, Emmons County's prerogative has always been to operate on a very conservative budget, and that's, you know, I was just down at, dairying your own pools, and I drove by your place. It's
You gotta wait till.
about a quarter mile west, well, I was there about a day and a half after it rained, and I was, yeah, so, I mean, I get down on them roads, I mean, and you know, the hard part is we spent the whole summer down in that Westfield area about 3 years ago, and we did fix up a lot of them roads, and I don't know why they're in such bad shape again already, because, I mean, we went right through town even, I mean.
Because no gravel was put on them.
Well, and.
That was the problem. It got late in here and no gravel was put on it, and that is the problem.
Well, and that's another thing that we'd address too, is that we're gonna have to look at kind of a problem, and it's not to cast blame on any one person, I don't mean to make it sound like an excuse, but years ago, Emmons County decided to take it upon itself to haul its own gravel.
Yeah.
And I know that because when we go to those 6 county meetings, we're like the only county tries to haul their own gravel. I mean, other counties assist themselves, they haul their own gravel on a small project or a culvert, but their main graveling, they contract it out with somebody.
That's why I asked you for short of funds.
No, and then that's always been the, kind of the issue, is that we've always were stuck in that motion of like, well, we can do it ourselves, we can do it cheaper, we can do it better. We haven't. But it's been a failed plan, if you wanted to say that. I'm not trying to insult any of the guys in the past, they're trying to do it conservatively, they're trying to keep taxes low, but we've hit a wall now where even if you think the taxes are agreeable and it's fine, you're not even getting the services to make it feel like you're getting a deal, but you'd rather pay more to see something done. I think that's what everybody's kind of reached that point, and we've tried to operate too conservatively, I think, over the last 30 years probably, and it's hurt us now. It's really,
Now you're behind.
right, it's to the point where you're supposed to be probably graveling 100 miles per year, you're doing 50, and then the next year you're 50 miles behind, and after 10, 20 years, now the roads you did gravel again, you didn't even get the first ones done. It's a problem. I think kind of the conversation we had is somebody's gotta be the bad guys at some point, even the pavement. You could argue 30 years ago, if we would have paved the federal aid roads, like going in and out of Westfield, Strasburg, Hazelton, like Clinton has 915, they're going to, I mean, you would have done that at least on the main federal aid roads on every one of the towns, the difference that would have done for us, but it was too expensive then, now it's really expensive. It's like expensive, but if somebody would have been a bad guy 30 years ago, we'd probably be in pretty good shape with some of that stuff,
And so everybody blames it on the trucks. I've hauled fuel for 22 years out of Strasburg. Every day I was on them roads, and milk trucks, they were just continually going. There was a lot of truck traffic, it was the semis, single axles with full loads. And the roads were kept up in them days. It's just, we got behind it. And just, you're hoping you come up with a good plan and start moving toward it. You know,
But the problem is there's part of the county that the roads are decent. We can go east and the roads are decent. Our guy who is employed with us, he is out of Campbell County, and he said the other day, when I talked to him, he said, all I have to do is tell them what Emmons. When they complain about Campbell, just go to Emmons, he said, because he works in McIntosh and Campbell and Emmons. He said, you haven't seen anything yet. Just go to Emmons, the southern Emmons. But there's other parts too, I can't tell you the roads are decent. So why just a little piece of us?
well, I think one big issue with your guys' area more than anything is there's been a lot of gravel close. I mean, really, what's the closest pit to Westfield, right? And now we got the whole pit, but other than that, it's cattail, and that gravel might mix pretty well with the clay roads down there, but that's part of the trouble too.
Yeah, we had that by Dennis Hummel, but that was all.
Right, I mean, that is a big issue, is that we're probably the farthest away from gravel.
any of you guys on the commission on the board that traveled down to the state line into Campbell County? So that young fellow said he approached Emmons County, they weren't interested. And that was right against us, I mean, you couldn't hold that over at Strasburg.
Well, I think the issues about hearing that is when they said they approached Emmons County, I don't know who they would have approached or when it was, because I mean, if they just went to a road superintendent, I don't know, I don't remember opportunities.
Well, take it into the county commissioner, because then someone was on at that time, and I don't know who else made it. But they had his gravel yet, they probably said, if you don't need it.
So if there's one thing I've been liberal on, it's been spending money on gravel. I mean, ever since I've been commissioner, we've had gravel, we crushed it. I mean, we crushed the cattail, we crushed out the Massel pit, we crushed the Knolls, we crushed the Woolbomb pit. Is there one thing I know, I haven't wasted time on gravel, so if somebody would have gave me an opportunity, I think I would have said no, so.
Maybe it was a few years back.
Probably must have been, because probably. I'm not that.
I'm not here to just criticize you,
I know, Steve, you're not wrong, you're not, and I don't think anybody disagrees with you here, I don't think anybody's even offended by what you're saying, well, I think we all recognize that we're just, we hit a spot now where we're in tough shape, and we're gonna have to get out of it. I think that our plan, I can tell you as a part of my plan, I'm approaching to it as first things first is, we're not getting any applicants, we gotta try and make the job work out, it's probably gonna start with pay. And see if that helps, and then we're gonna have to try and consult some outside services, and even talking to the cattail guys. We didn't really budget for a lot of outside services, but it's not like we don't have the funds to make up those, I mean, we obviously aren't gonna go crazy and spend it all, but we do have reserves, we can go over a budget if something works out, if something works right. We got options, it's just, there's kind of a conservative goal built into this commission, which is a good thing, but I think we've got too conservative, we've left our roots behind. I think that's probably the biggest issue, and that's probably a generational issue.
Probably stay closer in touch with Cyrus and month, because else everything ends up on the supervisor's shoulders, you gotta have guys once in a while. Maybe you do that, I don't know.
Well, I think the commissioners have probably lacked direction when it comes to that too, like, I mean, if we're not providing the budget to get the guys in here, and you know, I think we've done well with equipment, things like that, but we've definitely,
Years ago, they didn't have a road supervisor. We had Tony Bloss from out by the river, probably none of you guys remember him. You do? And Ted Matter, and we didn't have road supervisors, and then commissioners, they watched the roads all the time, and they conversed with each other. And things got taken care of, you know? And then I remember the first road supervisor kind of took the load off the commissioners, they just meet once a month, and I don't know the answer.
And they had old equipment.
What's
They
that?
had old equipment.
Anyway, I wish you well and going ahead with the plan. That's what we need, a plan.
well, I think our first plan is to fill our department again, I think that's what we need to work on, we need to get people in here who can do the work, and then that's.
Why is that so hard? Is it the wages we paid or?
Well, it could be the wages, it could, I know like we talked this morning, some of the guys are leaving for personal reasons, one guy moved, one guy, some things you can't help. You know, a couple guys retired over time, you know, like John Keegan, some of the guys, I mean, every couple of years, someone either retires or moves to take a job or something happens, I mean, it's not, I don't think there's a lot of people leave because it's disgruntled or anything. So, sometimes you have change of leadership, some guys don't agree with it, and there's a variety of different reasons, but I think that tough winter this year was really tough on them, I mean, anything, you guys that are probably tired of being Tommy Lee. So there's a lot of stuff we're gonna battle with, and I think part of our issues with the lack of gravel is probably is after it's in the ditch from having to push snow 3 times a week all winter, it's just a bad deal, there's not really a good excuse for it, so I won't get anymore, but it just needs it in.
Foods will come in, you think?
Well, the problem is, this time of year is probably gonna be tough, I'm really start looking, but really, we should, if anything, now's the time to start preparing for next year, really, truly, but in the meantime, it's probably gonna get tough to get anybody in anymore, unless somebody's looking for work, which,
I think my neighbor, he went to Jamestown to haul gravel. He was right next door, he was working at the big elevator. He got left there, I was working at Jamestown, he's running gravel trucks all his life. And then he's an employee, but
well, I guess I'll just extend you the same thing I told the cattail guys this morning. I mean, we're willing to entertain all kinds of ideas, we're just, if we could bring on temporary guys for the summer, that if they just wanna drive the truck for a few weeks, or, I mean, even anybody wants to run a blade, if they have that kind of ability, I mean, we think we'll entertain any idea, I don't think anything's off the table other than breaking the law. The cattail guys, depends on breaking the law is.
Didn't that guy run a blade? Didn't that guy run a blade too, your neighbor there?
silent. I don't know if you hear or not, he used to have a truck and fleet up by a local thing.
Oh,
And you got the speed down here, worked out of a elevator for 2 years. 3. Now he's on the ground with Jamestown. But he's an old guy.
yeah,
Well, I mean, we've had we've been having job openings for over a year here, so I mean, that's something too, I mean, I guess he doesn't want to apply.
well, I think it's hard to,
Sort of, it doesn't look down there.
So what about the Schmitz case? They probably forgot whatever area, exactly. We did get some preliminary Shabinsky's out of Jamestown. Came down here, and then they forgot review, then they closed for closing. State,
$1,000 when you. That's good, that was good stuff.
and they were 12, so has that ever been considered using that firm?
Well, I think the main thing, if we did something like that, I think try and put it out for bids and see if we could get a few guys, and if you get a competitive price on it, haul out of our pits, and, cause I'm assuming Shabinsky's probably hauled out of the pits by all, but,
I don't know,
cause
that's,
they were crushing for, I think it's the Hayes there.
yep, that's where they got
That
it,
was gravel that they were selling too,
Yeah.
so that's what they.
cause they haul,
I believe so, South.
they haul a lot of loads out of there. I know they went over to Westfield there.
So, I mean, that's something we talked about, and that's probably something we're gonna have to go back to, is contracting out a majority of our gravel hauling, and we can do it for our own small projects and spot gravel. We're gonna have to put together big stretches and get like gravel and just we're gonna bite the bullet and spend some money, cause we're just too far behind. We're to the point now where we're never gonna catch up with this.
Certain people tell me it last year in the 4th of July, told me for the road maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
I never forgot that. Every time we drive a little, I'm just teasing you.
But you,
That's fine.
One times.
I got thick skin and no hair, it's fine. You know, I can just tell you, it's been a battle, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, even now, we had a stretch where we thought we got through winter, we were gonna start getting things back in shape. And we got a 7.5 inch rain up in Bragg, 5 inch rain by Hazelton, and all of a sudden a bunch of new jobs added up. And just, we don't even get caught up with the job we were already planning on doing. Now we have a whole set of emergencies all the time, and we're really spinning our wheels, and it's not working, just relying on ourselves. I mean, this year's probably, I mean, we powered through it other years, and we got drier weather, we got through it, and we kind of pushed it off.
Not being chastised for getting rid of a good leader man last year. You know,
Well, we never did get rid of it like that.
it's a very hard time.
Yeah, well, I
He
mean,
was good.
I agree.
His road, everybody liked him over there. Everybody liked him over there. His roads were good on that
Yeah, I
side.
moved to the roots just 3 weeks ago. Out there. When I moved here, all the way from taking up the same, like the same thing.
Yeah.
Down in 83 and turned toward
Yeah.
our country, and I had to slow down.
Yeah.
With the tractor pulling, it was awful.
Yeah, he did a good job over there.
But, you know, you had permission, the way I read in the paper.
Yeah, it really wasn't his fault, in my
You
opinion.
guys just got a little carried away. You know, it can happen. It happens in families, it happens in businesses. And I got a good scolding, but I felt bad about that. Because now we're short of.
I don't think anybody felt good about that, so.
Okay, I'm done speaking. You guys do your best. And maybe stay in touch with each other, instead of once a month. These roads, you know, is that our road supervisor?
Yeah, Skylar right there.
Oh, there you, I don't know who's who around there. You know, work with him. He's probably got a lot of stress, or don't you?
That's why I keep my hair short.
Don't cut it too short, it might not come back. At least that's what I, you know, that I can just tell you though, I mean, we do work with Skylar a lot, we do talk to him a lot, you know, but right now, the biggest thing too is especially being short-handed, there's just not a lot you can do, and so we're gonna reevaluate everything we've been doing, and everything's on the table. I mean, if you got ideas, or you know people that wanna do some work, anything, I think we're willing to bring on. I mean, if something works out, we can bring somebody on seasonally or even temporarily for a certain time, we're willing to entertain anything.
These commissioners don't have anything to do, jump in the ground.
Yeah.
You need a CDL,
What's
you
that?
need a CDL.
Not if you're county commissioner, you right, Gary?
Right.
Yeah, see.
Okay, I spoke my piece. You got any more to share?
Well, just the road, where Tony Turnus lives, you cross that main road and you go north, that is great.
Yep.
That is, where you guys did do some contracting, and he did build that up the other day, Jill and I had to use that road. And we were almost in the ditch that day, and we went past that road and went north, and it was like a breeze. Joe says, well, this shows it doesn't mean how much it rained, and I think we got like 10 or 15 hundredths, but the road was even dusty, it was built up, it was decent. I mean, it was so close by, but if you would be able to have some contractors like that, what an amazing difference it would make. So that's all I have to. It's really dangerous, and we got young kids out there on our roads too. It's dangerous, it's extremely dangerous. I have grandkids who are starting to drive now, and it's dangerous. I don't want to lose somebody from those roads. And I sure hope you guys feel the same way. And that's all I have.
Two
So
more
thank you.
supporters here. I got Warren and Dennis.
Oh, Lord.
Dennis, you got something to say.
Well, you said enough already, I guess. We know what our roads are, and
I stopped at his place one Sunday and I said to him, somebody been plowing your road? He said, a bunch of four-wheel drives went by that night and it was impassable with any vehicle except four-wheel drive. They cut it up so bad.
It's terrible there on that Grossville Road, there going
Yeah,
south.
that's a bad road.
By Bosch's and holy crap.
try the Wild Dam Road.
I drove that too, it's unreal.
How about you, Lauren?
I kinda came late to the show, so I don't know what was all said earlier. But, and this is, we organized this late, I guess, you know, didn't really have time. So I don't expect all these answers today, but I am curious, how many hours on these maintainers do you guys put on? I see what you guys buy for maintainers, you have very good equipment, not saying the equipment ain't bad, but I just don't think we're running enough. You know, we just don't get enough hours out. And I ain't saying nothing bad about the road crew, I'm not saying nothing bad about the employees, but we gotta see the maintainers out there and running. And I guess that's my concern is we just need to have more passes. And how do you guys schedule the roads, I guess I'm curious, like, is every road supposed to kind of have so many passes on it? Or is it every once a month we try and get on the roads? I'm just curious, you don't have to answer this now, you know, this is short term.
Well, I mean, I think the expectation of it is it takes roughly 9 to 10 days to do a route. That's kind of what we were always told, that's kind of the expectation is 9 to 10 days to do a route. And then, you know, that depends on the weather, whether it's raining or not, and they get mixed in. The other problem too is when you are running short-handed and you're hauling your own gravel, naturally your truck drivers are also your blade operators too. So certain blade operators get pulled, so you might have your guy might drive truck for a week and a half, or even like we don't have a lot of asphalt, we have roughly 15, 20 miles between Braddock, Kintyre, around Hazelton, Strasburg, a little bit around Lead. We do crack seal them in the spring, takes a week or two, you know, and so you pull 2 or 3 guys off to do that. So there's, not every route is the same, and every guy's got their own abilities. Some guys are truck drivers, some guys, there's 1 or 2 guys don't have a CDL, so they maybe are operating something else. They try and divvy it up so not everybody is just getting to blade their roads while this other guy's not getting to blade his roads. And, you know, and then there's some guys that are just better operators at certain equipment. If you have an excavator needed to get rammed, then maybe you might pull a blade operator more often than not, so that guy won't suffer. I mean, there's really kind of exact science to it, it's tough, and I think that's the, I mean, to Skylar's credit, and even I think Francis before that, they always said we were short-handed, like we just don't have enough guys, cause you can't fix culverts and blade roads and gravel all at the same time, you just don't have enough guys.
Well, it's like when they had these emergencies, like they had that rain up at Hazelton now, well, then they had to send the guys up there to fix washouts and whatever. So stuff doesn't get done down here or over there.
Right, I think that's why, getting back to even what Steve's suggestion was a one-annual plan, I think we've just come to the realization we've been running too short. We need a few more guys so that we can get 1 or 2 guys in a truck without having half the blades not running for a week, you know, and that's just, we need to, whether we come up with some temporary type help that are only doing that type work so we can keep blade operators in the blades, or, and that's why I even said it, you know, guys, that, you know, we got CDLs, things like that. I mean, I know everybody's busy, so that's a hard ask, most people are, but got guys that have a seasonal type scenario where they're, if there are guys that are working out of the area that are looking for a job, if they don't do that, a job posting open for better to be here for stuff. I mean, we've talked about hiring just truck drivers, or just people, so we can keep our blade operators in the blades, and we've kind of always operated that these guys do a little bit of everything. You do a little bit of everything, don't get overly good at anything, right? You're not getting everything done, you're just getting some stuff done all the time, so. I think it's been, I'll just speak for it, I think just we've been too conservative and too willing to let the roads dry out and tough it out another year, and, you know, we're just, I don't really wanna blame the road department on a lot of it. I think the commissioner should take a lot of blame on for the fact that we haven't properly staffed that department for years. Right about the time we get it fully staffed, somebody quits, and then we tough it out for another year with that one guy short, and then we get it replaced, and another guy retires or quits, and I don't think we've been aggressive enough to fill our department.
I think gravel pits in the area, you guys don't seem to want to mine there.
Well, I think the big thing with graveling is whether or not we get offered to us, or whether or not we know about it, or, I mean, and that's the thing, if people know about gravel, bring it forward. So we've been pursuing gravel everywhere we've had an opportunity, you know.
Well, that Stopper pit, I'm sure he would sell you guys gravel, I can see why he wouldn't. I mean, Bake's got that pit right off 83 there. I bought gravel, it's excellent gravel.
Well, we got gravel right there, so that's why we probably haven't pursued that. We got gravel out of the Knoll pit to the north there, so. The main thing's probably gravel west of Westfield was the biggest issue, if we could get some down there, so. I don't think anybody would be against.
Is there gravel southeast of Dennis, Hummel? The last couple of years, I was told Sunday that a bunch of that gravel went all the way to the bridge.
Southeast of Dennis Hummel?
Dennis Hummel, southeast.
Yeah,
You mean where you had that pit there? That, they took that all out of there, I guess, cause they were gonna take some more out of there and then,
Where'd it go?
well, they must have mined it all out of there by Dennis there, on the south side of the road there.
South side, but there's some, recently went to Mobridge a year or two ago, a lot of gravel. Jensen's hauled it to the Indians for some reason or other. That's what I was told Sunday.
Well, he told me that Sherbinsky's coming back to that pit on Highway 13.
Yeah.
Or what is it down there, 11?
When are they coming there, do you know?
I don't know, sometime this summer, he said. They're gonna be mining there again. He said, keep it in mind, if you guys need gravel, there'll be gravel.
Yeah, there were options.
Didn't, Jerry, Heisinger have some down there someplace
I
too?
wonder if he don't, it's close to that other pit. Has he ever been approached? Maybe he's not interested, you know?
Well, I know some people have been approached over the years, but their price was a little out of the sort too, where, I mean, wasn't feasible, I don't.
Maybe he's got a dicker.
Well,
I don't know.
Gotta be a chew for that.
I was gonna say, you
That'd be true for
gotta,
that.
you gotta get Steve to do it, maybe you need to negotiate more side. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I know for a fact, especially when Francis was the road superintendent, he was looking for gravel, and he did, there were a few people he did approach that their offers were, I think they were either, they really didn't wanna sell gravel, and if they did, it was for a price that, by the time we would've crushed it, it wouldn't have been, we could've probably just bought gravel from somebody and had them haul it in for that price, so there are a few places out there we've tried that we've kind of been turned
Another
down.
thing that reminds me of, these contractors, when they come in and haul gravel, they screen it. I don't think the county screens it maybe.
Absolutely, no, we do,
There's a lot of pretty good sized rocks on the road.
well, that's usually not from the new gravel, that's from a lot of that old gravel coming up a lot of times, cause our gravel is usually crushed to spec, so.
Yeah, they make it class 5 or class
Well,
13. I
usually
think.
a class 13, and that rock is usually, I think, 3/4 minus, or that's pretty small, so.
I pick a lot of rocks whenever I find them along our road because I hate the ditches, you know?
Mhm.
You know, pretty soon you got these rocks that size and you're trying to mow.
Well, most of us pick them up with our vehicles, so the person who's doing the ditch will not ruin their equipment, because that happens to a lot of us.
I think that's a county-wide deal, because I mean, I mow ditches up in my area too, and I pick rock every year out of the same ditch, and it drives me insane how I think this is the year I finally got all the rocks out, and then the next year, it's like they just come right out of the ground, and so that. Well, they are coming out of the road, they do, some of them, yeah, that road was, you know, they built them with big rocks back in the day, I know, and so, but.
Well,
Well, I appreciate your time, but please stay vigilant.
Appreciate you guys coming in.
Thanks for coming in.
Got anything else, Lauren?
well, thanks for listening.
Nothing?
Thank you fellas for coming. I'm done talking. Lauren, you wanna say a few words yet?
Well, like I said, pretty much everybody knows how bad our roads are out there, and it's just, but we have to have something, either we gotta get some trucks going to get at least some of these low areas, I mean, it's only 3 miles long, the, 12 Dam Road, there was 5 water holes where everybody was driving around this last week here. I mean, literally driving in the grass around the water holes. And I know we had more rain than everybody else did. It was good, but it was a disaster. We could not go on that road.
That's another thing.
Dennis,
And you did say, you know, every 9 days you make a route, you know, with the blades. Yesterday was the first time the Weld Dam was bladed all year.
was it?
All year.
Okay.
That's the first time that the blade was on. They were on there, yes, for the snow removal. But yesterday was the first day the blade was on the Weld Dam.
I know, you know, but one thing you have to consider, so like a good example is yesterday I got a phone call, and somebody had asked about the main federal aid road west of Strasburg, and why that doesn't get bladed more. And I told him, I said, well, I said, when you're going around and you're trying to get every road once, it's, you know, so some of these guys, you know, they do go around and they'll blade a spot of it or try, you know, so now that 9th day, they were supposed to be on the Weld Road, now they're back on this road, well then now they get a call over here, you either have to totally stick to your route and never deviate off it, or you do like what we've been doing, and you go around and you kind of put out fires sometimes after a big rain or something. Well, now, that road that didn't get to, well, now he's on the other side of his route, so now it doesn't make sense to drive all the way back and blade that road, now he blades his way to it, so now it took 14, 16, 18 days sometimes to get to that road. It's not a perfect science with the 9 to 10 days, it's just kind of the expectation. And I'm not picking on you, but I just know that there's a lot of times I'll get a call. You have to, and I'll drive out there, and it's like, wow, there's kind of a hole here, or something really happened. You call Skylar, and he sends the guy out to fix that spot, and it's great, I'm the hero for fixing that spot. Now I'm the jerk because I pulled the blade off of that spot. He should have been on that day to go fix this road over here, so. That really what it's coming down to, honestly, is we just have too many miles per blade. We've been told that for years. We have. I'm not gonna ignore it. I'm not gonna act like it's some revelation we just figured out, but we weighed against the budget, we did the best we could, and then
We actually even added a blade a few years ago.
well, we did, and then right about the time we add a blade, then a guy retires, or a guy quits or leaves, and it's just, we're always in a state of being right around here, 6, 7 operators, we can never seem to get above that, because right about the time we bring someone else on, we fall short again. And I think we need to we have the machines, we actually do, I mean, we could get it, I think we have, what, 8?
8 machines, yeah.
Just had a guy resign this morning, but
Right, so I mean, that's where, like you said, we got basically 5 operators for 8 machines right now, so if we could get 3 more machines out there right now, I mean, we'd be looking a lot better, right? We still probably wouldn't be doing as good as we need to be, but it'd be a lot better, but we just can't even keep all those machines going, so.
If greater operators, they should know where the roads need to be gravelled also. They know where the bad spots are.
yep.
They should be the ones keeping track of that.
Right.
So why do you think we can't keep laid off, or, operators? I know why, I think I know why, but why do you guys think we can?
Well, like I said, I mean, the last couple that left were, one left because his wife took a job in another town, they moved to Bismarck, I think what I'm hearing now is there were some personal reasons with the last guy leaving, I mean, some of these guys have personal issues, some of them retired, some of them don't like the leadership, they don't like the commissioners, they don't like the road superintendent, maybe they don't like their route. Now, being a county blade operator is not the most glorious job on the planet, in case anybody doesn't know. I mean, some of these guys can't even go to the bar and drink a beer without getting yelled at by people. I mean, it's not right. I'm gonna stick up for them on that. There's a lot of times I go to places with my family just to eat a meal, and I get accosted about some of the stuff on the roads, and I drive that road a week later, and yeah, I mean, it could be better, but there is some, I think there is some malice towards just, I don't know if it's the county or what, because I mean, I've driven a lot of good roads in this county too, they're not all bad. I mean, one thing I'll tell you is, we have 1,200 miles of road. You take 10% of the county and say it's undrivable, that's 120 miles of road, that's a lot of road. It's a lot of road. That's like from here to Valley City, that could be considered undrivable. Now, I still think that's probably unacceptable, but that means that 90% of those roads are considered drivable. It's still, I mean, I think sometimes we do forget that we are maintaining a lot of road, and there's a lot of very drivable road out there too. It's just that there are some bad roads in some of these areas. I'm not discounting what you're talking about, I'm not. You're not wrong. I've seen the pictures, I've driven them myself, but these guys are maintaining a lot of road and keeping it in good shape too. They are doing the best they can. We need to get more help. We recognize that. We have to do better. Commissioners. Well, and I think that's the next item on the agenda too. And the one conversation we had, Donnie and I had the conversation, he had talked to some guys with the city of Bismarck, and they're like, oh, that's the same thing we're getting. It's like, yeah, but attracting someone to come to Bismarck is a lot easier than attracting someone to come down to Scott. Just to move down here, is their wife to find a job, husband is, really great place to, but does their kid wanna go to small public school? There's a lot of reasons why we're probably gonna have to overpay over some of them groups to be able to recruit people to come down. The same issue with the sheriff's department, we're having issues recruiting down the rural county.
The pay isn't that bad, really, and the benefits are good.
No, maybe, but are they good enough to recruit people to live in Strasburg and Hazelton and Westfield and Braddock? That's our big question, I'll tell you, it's tough, it is, so. And we were pretty fortunate to pick up on Dave Ellingson and Cody Renner, a couple of guys too that live in here. But I mean, them guys are gonna be here forever too, we need to keep bringing people like that. So, I mean, we recognize the problem. We need to get more aggressive on recruiting, so. And I think we need to look at outside help, contractors, things like that when we can. It's unpleasant to look at and sound like we're gonna spend some money, but we're just getting too far behind. We're losing our Steve now. There's parts of the county that are gonna be, it's not the road department's fault, but a lot of it does lie on the commissioners. You need to, but, so. That's all I can tell you.
If you know anybody, guys, tell them to apply.
I was thinking that it could make it think, we got a lot of neighbors that are big farmers, they can't get employees, they get South Africans.
Yeah.
You know, they like to work. Say, we should start a cut, but people don't see it along.
I'll tell you, it's part of another growing problem too, is that even the contractors we're talking about hiring, it sounds like a great thing. They're all short too. You know, they don't even know if they take on the work if they wanted to right now, because they maybe don't have the truck drivers, the operators, that. It's a growing problem that's bigger than even just the county and everything too, it's everywhere. You know, he just called Knife River right now and said he wanted 3 trucks right now. I don't know if they could give it to you even if they wanted to, you know, they're short staffed, short equipment, you know, whatever it is, they can't get trucks or trailers, or they can't get people, but we're gonna do our best to get as much help in here as we can, but I would argue that money isn't even gonna be the biggest issue. I think it's gonna be getting people to just help us out, finding applicants to run our blades, contractors to do our work. It's getting tough.
Somebody said maybe we gotta pay more taxes. Man, 2 years, we're telling you, wait to get more money for the roads. Every bushel we raise, it's raising Emmons County, there should be a tax on it. Yeah, that would make a lot of people scream, but what the heck, the guy that raised 300,000 bushels versus the guy that sells 50,000 pay more for roads. Cause he owns. I mean, it's just money, you gotta have money, or you gotta spend it. Same way with food, you gotta spend money to make it. Here, you don't spend it to make it, you spend it to fix our roads.
Well, we tried to keep taxes down too, but I mean, you know, we tried to keep the taxes down too, but you know, all the tax money, that doesn't all go to
No, I know.
to the roads.
You got welfare programs, food stamps.
You know, there's only a certain there's only a small percentage, what is that, Martha, 16%? 16% of the whole budget goes for the roads, the rest is for all the others.
So, I said enough, thank you for
Thanks for coming in, Steve.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Okay.
see you, Steve, yep.
Okay, well, next item on the agenda is the pay scale discussion. So, I mean, I can tell you that the groups that came in, the guys from Cattail said it, these guys said it. I've probably heard from 20 other people that said it, I mean, I don't know, I don't have an answer for it, so I mean, I think we need to follow that pay scale that Pam came up with, we can stick to that, but I think there needs to be some adjustment there for some of the spots, we need to compete in the marketplace to recruit some of these employees in these different departments, that's just. And, you know, like I said before, living conditions and all that, some people wanna live in a big city, it's gonna be tough to recruit. Have to pay to do it. Because,
I've had people show interest in my 2 positions, 2 particular officers. But their stipulation was they want to remain in here, and that's not. You can't have the on call, you can't respond in a timely manner, it's not an option.
Yeah. Well, I think that's.
And once I told them it wasn't an option, there was no argument.
right,
I think that's probably a lot of it, you know, there's not enough people around here that wanna do that, and if you get them out of Bismarck, well, they want the big city
They want their
conveniences.
cake and eat it too.
Right, yeah.
And I think we all understand that. They might be already invested in a house, their
Right.
kids are going to school, their spouse might be a professionally employed up in the Bismarck area. But for my office, it's not an option, cannot.
I think for any department.
Well, it's almost like anything, it's harder to get people to move to a small town.
It is.
You know, it's just, when they're living in Bismarck or something, it's just all the advantages they have up there compared to what we have, yeah.
And we must be careful to keep the help that we have. We've got some good helpers out there. And, you just hate to see some of them walk away or leave. But it's happened a few times. You gotta treat them right to help. That's one thing I learned about being on the commission. You don't make anybody mad, especially the ones that work for you.
You know, it's twofold. I mean, I think the message is pretty clear with the conversation today, and that is recruitment and retention. It's hard to keep your employees here, but it's even harder to recruit. The workforce isn't there. There has to be some type of thing. You gotta be competitive in those markets. Like I said, my deputies, right out of the gate, 18, 20,000 right away. I mean, that's an incentive for him. He's young, got a young family. I can't blame him for that.
Yeah.
You know? I think that tool that Pam Binder put together for us is great. It gives us the network, or it gives us the ability and the blueprint to go forward with. I do think it needs to be tweaked slightly in the grades and the steps. Some of it doesn't make sense, even I'm looking at it where you have a new employee that's been here less than 6 months, but yet they're in a particular grade, but yet at a step 12, 14, that doesn't make any sense. And I think to Pam's defense, she didn't have all the information she wanted or needed to really provide the final document that we needed. So I think there needs to be a little bit of tweaking there by the department head, you know, as far as that goes. I mean, if you look at what she put together for us, our starting salaries in Emmons County are nowhere near what step one is, what she has in there. The nice thing about that spreadsheet she put together, that if you change, if I go to grade 1, step 1, and I change that number, that salary for that position, everything on that thing changes in correlation to what I just put in there. It shifts everybody, so you're not just singling out. What I see is if you take, there 12 grades, 12 different categories, 12 grades. And in each grade, there's 18 steps. Your job description, your title, your authority, all that stuff describes what grade you should be in, or what she believes you should be in. But if you take, hypothetically, step 8, okay, in any grade, it's step 8. 9 is the midpoint. There's 18 steps in each grade. 9 is the midpoint. And the whole purpose of a step is that if you're at the end of your career, or near the end of your career, you should be somewhere, hypothetically, out of 18 steps, you should be at that 15, 17, somewhere in there, okay? Versus if you've been here 6 months, why are you at a step 15 already? That's, you know, you're gonna bottom out, you're gonna top out, you know, 5 years into your career, you can't go anymore. So that needs to be slid down. But if you take those steps and you shift everything to the left, take grade 1, step 8. Take those figures in step 8, slide them into the step 1, and you're probably about where the starting salary is for most positions in Emmons County. And that whole document changes with that. Because the way Pam set that up, there's about a 2% increase between the steps. So grade 1, step 1 versus grade 1, step 2, there's about a 2% difference in salary there. One of the things that I have to do as a deputy is look at my positions in my office, and Skylar's probably the same way, because when Pam looks at a lot of the information that's put out there through the association of counties on salaries and so forth, with the low, the medium, and the high, and that whole thing out of the 53 counties, job description, they list a deputy one and a deputy two. For road operators, they list an operator one, operator two, and maybe an operator three. What's the difference between level one and a level three? Level one and a level two? That's for me, it would be better. To me, you know, a deputy one is entry level. You may be licensed, okay? You don't have the training, you don't have the experience, versus a level two position is gonna have at least a minimum of 5 years of experience, minimum of additional training and certification and investigation, and service and some other stuff before you even get to a deputy two. And there might be 1, 2, or 3 step difference between deputy one and deputy two. And the same thing, I'm sure, with the operators. Do they have a PDL? Do they not have it? Do they have, you know, certain certifications or training that a new guy is gonna have? That might justify them for an operator two, or longevity, 5 years versus 6 months. So, but I think Pam gave us the right draft, the blueprint to go forward with. I just think we need to look at it closely and tweak it, before it's finalized as far as that goes. But on the flip side, just like the conversation all day long, is we need to address these salaries sooner than later. Particularly in my office and the road department. We can't keep the people we got, and we can't even recruit. And we've got these voids, and it's important we get these voids filled.
So, excuse me, I agree with Sheriff Sanders, like, her platform or her step pay scale it's a great blueprint, or it's a decent blueprint for it. I agree that the lower steps, like step one, probably don't need them. We can move from step 5 and move it to step 1, kinda like that, easily done on a spreadsheet. What I did is I took, and I moved that over. So I changed all the first steps to the step 5. I moved step 5 to the first steps, so it added to the tail end of it. Then I took where she's got, you know, there's that sheet where she has where it's the blue where people should be, whatever. I threw that away because she didn't have enough information to determine that. So I started to put my employees in where I think they need to be at, like what we should start the new employees at, where the existing employees are at. I used their different job descriptions and years of service and stuff like that, and I fit them in that. So some of my guys are in step or pay grade, I can look it up here.
Seems like almost all your guys are in 7 for the grade.
Yeah, I didn't even, with what Pam put, I didn't even go off of her. That was just the information she had to kind of fit them in there. So I've got a couple guys at a grade 6, I got a couple guys at a grade 7, and then a couple guys at a grade, one at a grade 8 and one at a grade 9. So that's how I fit them in there with the dollar. I didn't really follow her sheet where she put them in as the grades because she had the information.
Some of those employees, not only with this department, I think there's 1 or 2 other employees that are temporary or part-time. You know, you might want to assess the difference from full-time employees. Whether it's seasonal, part-time, full-time. Like you've got this seasonal part-time.
I have one that started. Yeah, you can put those guys in a different pay scale.
And if you got a truck driver, part-time seasonal versus full-time, you know, year-round, probably not the same rate. So,
Yeah, I agree with Sheriff Sanders. We're struggling to recruit, struggling to keep our head in the ball.
Well, it looks to me that, like, just for the road department in particular, our last employee will hire around the $24.
Our last employee? No, the last employee was hired. We're advertising between $20 to $24 an hour.
When you,
$24 an hour.
So the sheet I have must be the,
based on experience though, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, he did
You're advertising that, but it depends what their
if
experience.
you come with a CDL and a lot of experience, you're probably gonna get $24 an hour. If you come with no CDL and a little bit of experience, you're gonna get the $20 an hour.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do that even with, when we change the pay scale, I mean, we're gonna have a window in there. The more experience you have, the more you should get paid. Like, you have to start paying for experience. That's,
but you're gonna correlate that to kind of a step in grade though, right?
correct.
Alright, cause I mean, that's the whole point, is we wanna be able to keep this on a trajectory where it's repeatable and, you know.
Correct.
I guess my opinion is, I really don't care which step you start some of these guys on, if you feel like they're worth, like, to find someone that's coming over from another county with 20 years of experience and they're moving over here or something, you know,
Well, I think.
I think some of that, right, or even like if your situation, if you found somebody who's a deputy from another county or something, I think you're, that's,
You know, like I said, with any position, regardless of, you know, you might have a starting salary. Well, that's it, hypothetically, grade 1, excuse me, grade 7, in that position, and starting salary is gonna be anywhere between step 1 and step 4. Step 4, the guy has got experience, the guy has some training and certification versus like Skylar said, the guy with little to no experience, no certification, he's gonna start at step.
So how do we advertise for these? What do we say?
well, what you would do is you would pick the steps, like Gary said, you're gonna go, well, our range is gonna be a step 3 to a step 5 in the grade 7, because that's about where all our operators are. Everybody above is above a 7, so we're gonna go between a 4 and a 7 to start them out, or whatever. And, you know, that's kind of the range you'd probably pick though, like, you don't just pick a wage, you pick your step range, and then that gives you the number you're gonna start.
If you have a current employee right now in Emmons County, you look at their current salary. Let's say their salary is $40,000. And they're classified as step grade 5, step 11. Should they be at a step 11, or should they be bumped up to a grade 5, step 3 or 4?
Grade
If
6.
they got 10 years of work experience, they're gonna be bottomed out, topped out, they're not gonna be. The other thing is, your grade is determined based on, it's not like you're a good employee, it has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with how well you do your job. It is, what is your job description? What is your authority? What is your title? All that stuff determines your grade. Your steps are gonna be determined by experience. How long you've been with the county? Any extra certification, any additional certification related to the job? You know, things like that. But your grade is based on your job description, your title, your authority, all that stuff. New employee that passes probationary has a favorable probationary, eligible for a step in or 2, whatever the case is. But there has to be, and that's the beauty of this whole thing that Pam put together. It gives us consistency year to year. We've never had that. It was always, whatever you think, kind of deal. And that we just got out of sync. This brings us back. And now, whenever there's an
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I mean, the way she did that.
Yeah, it is. And it's pretty much the norm when you get out into the world,
Yeah.
local government, state government. You're classified with grade based on your description, job title, authority, and then you get your step.
But I was just wondering how they word the thing when they put it in the paper or wherever for advertising, you know, is your starting wage is gonna be from what to what, you know? So we get people to come in the door at least first, and then say, okay, you're qualified for this, you're qualified for that.
Well, I think that's where you'd advertise like they're advertising with an hourly wage, but the department head and the people listing the job are deciding which step they wanna start them at, and then that's the wage, like you don't just say, well, $20 to $24 an hour, you go, well, the lowest guy right now is a grade 7, step 5, so we don't wanna start anybody probably there unless they're really experienced, so your step 1 through 4 is what your range would be to start out.
But I mean,
And then you would take those numbers into your step and go, okay, that's about where.
but how do we get them in the door? What are we saying now when we first send out a,
Well, let's say for the guy, like Skylar would tell me to advertise. If he wants him as a grade 7, he would tell me to go like between 24, probably up till 26 or whatever.
so you're
And
starting,
that's what the starting salary would be. And then after he interviews and he sees how experienced they are, you would hire them at
whatever.
whatever the things.
I'm just saying, I didn't know what you're saying there, you gotta get them in the door. We gotta get them to come in.
Right, well, I think the proper way to do it, if you're talking about raising wages, is you're gonna have to start out at probably a higher step, but you can't do that unless you start moving your other
You
employees
gotta
too.
move
Like,
the
that's
extra
the,
first.
that's the reason why this is so important, though, you can't just go, okay, to get guys in the door, we're gonna start out at 26 an hour. But if you're not gonna move any of your other employees, well, now they're getting paid more, or the same as the guy that's gonna take it. So that's why this discussion has to happen in the sense that I think we all agree, we probably need to have our starting wage a little higher, and we need to probably pay our guys a little more than a year. But you gotta do it right within what we're trying to accomplish,
Right.
otherwise all this work we've been doing just throws it out the window.
Right, yep, I
So
understand.
that's why we gotta just make sure we do it right, I think we're on the same page, that what we're
Yeah.
starting out with is obviously too low, we're not getting that.
That's the tough problem, you always see, it's not only here, all over, it's that every time you bring in a new employee, you're always paying them more than the employees you take care of.
Okay.
And that's the problem, every business is almost like that, you don't take care of the employees you have, and that's where you gotta start, with the employees you have.
Well, and I think that's the issue, that's why Emmons County needed this though, is because you go through and you have someone who starts out, and they started out at $12 an hour, which was a good wage when they started, and then they put in 30-some years in there. Just starting to break into a really good wage, well, that really good wage is about what it takes to start someone new again, though, because the market is, whether it's deputies or anybody, that's the problem with it, so and if you don't have a system where you're at least acknowledging that you really can't move one person within this too much without moving everybody. That's the whole point of the system. Like, if you're gonna move one individual, it's gotta be because they've done something serious, a job title change, major responsibilities. You don't just take one employee who did a really good job this year and move them 4 steps and now they're in this, unless you start moving the other guys with it, it's kind of a chain reaction to it.
And this allows, like, my agency, and the incentive for the employee to get their CD. You get a CDL,
Right.
you're eligible for 1 or 2 step increase, whatever that may be. Same thing with me. Longevity, certification, I'll send you to investigator 1, investigator 2, sheriff's insert, things like that, which then makes them eligible for some additional step increases.
I mean, before in the past, we always just, oh, you got your CDL, I give a 50-cent raise. What does that mean though, right? Like, was it the right amount? Was it the wrong? What does it even mean? Like, this system offers you that opportunity to stay consistent with it, and that's where.
She built in a 2% increase between every step.
Right.
Yeah, so, 2-step increase is a 4%.
Right. And to be clear, that has nothing to do with the cost of living.
Right.
The cost of, you might not move anybody in the entire county employee group a step or a grade, but you still would get that like 2%.
You might be sitting in a position and at that same grade and that same step before.
Right.
There might be some cost of living increases, but you may see it again.
But then the cost of living increase is gonna move every step in every grade, so then it's still gonna sort that out.
Right. Use longevity as a possible step. If you've been here for 5 years, you're eligible for a step increase. You've been here 10 years, again, that's a longevity thing. You get another step increase. 15 years, maybe 1 more step increase. And that's been the problem. You could work here 47 years, like my prior office deputy, Tina, and she left here making the same salary as the new person with no experience and nothing.
That's what hurts.
Anita now.
Right, same thing.
Anita's in the same boat, 45 years in, and I just don't agree with that.
Right, and that's where the county can't, as a county as a whole, not each department, as a whole as a county, set those parameters. What makes you eligible for each step increase? Longevity wise, whatever the county decides, whether it's every 5 years, 10 years, 15, whatever. That means.
Or you can give the step increase every year, 2% plus your COLA or your cost of living, so you get 5%. Or if you can't justify the 2% 1 year, you gotta skip it, but if you don't keep up with this, in 10 years, we're gonna be doing the same thing.
Right, and I mean, that's the one thing I wanted to emphasize and why we wanted to have this conversation was that I think we've all agreed that we might have been starting too low. I mean, look at that 1 year when we had COVID, we didn't get anybody any raises, and I mean, the intention was to keep taxes down, there was more funny money flying around after that than anybody knew what to do with, so, I mean, that being said, it's kind of like property values, you have a year where you don't, I mean, that's the year when we ended up doing a 10% raise that 1 year, just because we had done nothing for so long that you have to make up for it, but the problem is there was no consistency to it. It's like, it was like rain, it was just like everybody got some or nobody got some on that deal, and it wasn't targeted. Well, then we tried targeting certain offices, well, that was noble in the sense you're fixing some offices, but then you left other offices behind, that's why this, I mean, we need this, we've needed it.
And that's the nice thing about this spreadsheet is that if nobody gets a step increase, but the county allows a cost of living 1 year in budget cycle, let's say at 2% or whatever it may be, you punch that number into that spreadsheet, everything changes to coincide with that cost of living. You know, it's so easy to maintain in that sense. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and sit down and try and spend 3 hours trying to figure out every grade and every, change one, it changes them all. So it stays consistent.
Well, I think the big thing as a part of this conversation is that whether it's you listing your deputy's position, you listing your road positions, or the tax director, I mean, there's certain offices right now that we're just having a hard time recruiting is we're probably just gonna have to identify a step we're willing to start at that's probably a little higher than what we've been at right now.
So what have we been at for advertising? What,
Well, with the road department, I think we're at $20 to $24 an hour, depending on experience. The deputies, I'm not quite sure, was that a salary
It's
base?
a salary, but you can break it down to an hourly rate.
Are you advertising as a salary though, like a salary rate?
Yeah, you advertise that as a salary, which is 55.
Okay.
And like I said, we're about 18 to 20,000 behind, but I'm losing my guys too. Not saying we have to be there, but we have to.
Right, but the truth is the reason you're losing your guys is because the highway department did the same thing, the state, the highway patrol did what we're talking about. They weren't getting guys either. And so they upped their pay, now they're recruiting from county areas and now we're in the same boat now that they were in a
That's
year or two
exactly
ago.
what they're doing, they're recruiting from the local governments because they're fast tracking their whole process of training and hiring and everything else.
Right, all they did was basically up their wage a little bit and it's starting to really.
Sign on bonus.
I mean, not saying everybody's leaving because of money, but it sure as heck isn't hurting, that's the thing. Like, on top of several reasons why they might wanna be a highway patrolman, the money's better too.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
so for us to get people in the road department, what do we gotta go at?
Well, I just looked at the state, their equipment operator one start out at $26 an hour. Their equipment operator threes are making close to 30, that's just starting. And I've got a guy that knows a person that's a temporary help, that an 18-year-old kid that started in a county up by Washburn, McLean County, for $24 an hour, temporary summer help.
Well, and temporary help is one thing too, because you're not offering the benefits and stuff. You can offer a little nicer salary too, so that's something we should consider too, because it would be ideal to just bring on, if you could bring 3-4 trusted guys on for 3 months out of the year just to help you hammer out some work. Even if you overpaid them a little bit in theory hourly, you're not paying the benefits and all, they just wanna come in, make some cash for 8 weeks, 6 weeks, and go about their business, where maybe they have another seasonal job or they're, whatever. I know those guys aren't just hanging off trees everywhere, but I'm just saying that you might have an appetite for a few guys that just wanna temporarily make some money for a couple of weeks if you offer a nice temporary thing, and so that's where, I think we just have to accept the fact we're gonna have to start doing that. We're just never really done it aggressively where we've looked for, it seems like today that several guys that either know guys or have offered, but they really don't know if they wanna commit, but I think you need to just flat out offer them some terms and make them as reasonable as you can and go, hey, here it is, do you wanna run a blade or drive a truck or not? And you might get some of them guys.
Don't you get a lot of college kids temporary that approach you? No, those days are over.
They can't even keep a swimming pool open in Bismarck right now because they can't get lifeguards. The temporary young worker is a thing of the past, it seems like too. There's either too many jobs and they all have them, or they're not working, one or the other.
And what the upside to that is if we increase our salaries and the other counties around us don't, we might start pulling deputies from different counties or equipment operators from other counties. We might start acting like the state, pulling them out because Wishick, Napoleon, those surrounding areas aren't that really that far from. Campbell County's not that far from us. We might start pulling them. We have to now become the tractor and not the trailer.
Well, I know one thing, we're hurting and it's not getting any better, and that's, I mean, something's gotta change. So I don't know, I mean, when you relist your jobs, I mean, you just wanna start at a higher salary, I mean,
I think,
I'm not
you know,
saying go crazy, but at the same time, we're gonna, I mean,
we've got
to a
6
point.
months before the new budget, and
Right.
I don't know, with only 3 of us in my office, 24/7, I don't know that we're gonna be able to maintain that.
No, that's why I'm kinda telling you, I think we need to get more aggressive about it, and we need to manage the budget a little later on this. I think we're too far behind it, and I don't think we can wait 6 months for some of these positions, like you said, you're gonna burn out your guys' departments to where we're gonna be 1 or 2 short again in a couple months.
So what do you think you have to have, Gary, to make somebody come in the door?
Oh, I'm confident that we have to be at least another 10,000, at least minimum 10,000, 10 to 15 per officer, to be competitive.
Just to get them to come in basically and get going.
Well, like you said, you got the testimony that the highway patrols basically, they're 1,500 a month ahead of us, basically.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to 10 to 18,000 a year more, that's.
An $80,000 job coming in roughly?
What's that?
An $80,000 job coming in as a deputy?
Oh, no.
That'd probably be about 65, because you're listed at
No, we're
about,
at 55 right now.
right, so you'd be looking at about 65.
65, 67.
Depending on your experience, you have a
Yeah.
range. Well, let's just face it, like you said, Rick, we already know what they're paying. It's the one advantage you have. It's the same thing with, I can just tell you in the construction equipment field, I'm in the same boat. I don't have anybody working for me pretty much for about less than 20. And I'm not a county or anything, I'm just a simple guy, so it's pretty hard to bring in anybody at less than, like you said, if you're offering 20 to 24, shoot, Sam's Club's at 18 or 19 an hour, and you only got a guy in town if you're from Bismarck. I'm saying everybody's desiring to work at Sam's Club, that just lets you know what the market's at right now. There's $20 an hour is, well, it's almost the new minimum wage for equipment operators, and I wouldn't even say that's fair. So.
Yeah, obviously it's not, 'cause that's what we're advertising.
Right, that's what I'm saying, the market is telling us that that's not enough, because we're not getting any applicants, so.
Because they can go to the private industry and make more money, and the private industry figured out a while ago that they have to start paying health insurance and benefits and stuff like that, so. They might not pay 100% of it, but they pay a good portion of it, and they still keep their wages up there, so. But used to be able to pull people, government jobs used to be able to pull people with benefits. Those days are long gone. That's correct, the states figured that out, and that's why they increased their wages.
So if we start them out higher, then all our other guys would have to be moved up right away too, right?
Should.
Otherwise, they're gonna be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the guys.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it takes a strategic talk here, I don't know what a number is, I don't wanna pinpoint a number, you guys seem to know better in your departments what you think is worth too, but I think.
Well, we gotta get them to come in the door somehow.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we have to do something, I'm not gonna sit here and just be like, well, we'll just tough it out and think about it another month, we just don't have that kind of time, we're getting destroyed out there on the roads. The deputies department's not gonna be much different, you got things like Johnny Homes and all these events, how you're supposed to provide security for them, and do
It's
another
not
stuff.
only the community events, but it's just day-to-day.
Fire calls.
All weekend stuff, you just can't. I said, I'm gonna be going into, like, and then 7 days a week, 24 hours a night, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 8 in the morning. Yeah, well, my guys are ready, nobody gets vacation, nobody gets back on. So,
that's a very slippery slope, and someone might just be like, why do I wanna put up with that?
That's what I mean, it's always a snowball effect, if you're short-handed, if you guys and the other have to carry on the burden, and now you get the burden, so. You lose another one, then you're just that much more short-handed, it's a snowball effect, it's terrible, it's not good, we need these departments to work. So.
With regard to the pay structure that you have there, with Pam not being here, these proposals and job descriptions that the department heads are supposed to be working on, are we supposed to hand those to the auditor's office or to you guys, or? We're just gonna talk about it again next month, cause I didn't even know this was on the agenda here.
Well, the main reason I put it on the agenda is for the same reason like we've been talking about all day. We have groups of people come in that are not happy with their roads. We have to do something we can't keep toughing it out, with the crew that we have. And we didn't even know the loss of our guys this morning. I mean, it's not working. I mean, some of your other departments, things like that, where you are staffed right now, I think we can wait till the budget cycle. I think we can, if you got the little time, another month or so, come up with your job descriptions and your recommendations to where their pay should be at, and we can kind of weigh it out, that's fine, but some of these other departments, I mean, we're in like emergency mode with some of them, we gotta do something. We can't go months and months, cause even if you hire someone today, there's 2 to 3 weeks notice of some of these guys, maybe a month, then there's a training period. You're not gonna have an active participant in that position for possibly another 2 to 3 months at this point, if we do something today. So it can't really wait, it just can't, I mean, like I said, some of the other offices in the courthouse where you're settled with your positions and people have fun, we can probably work that into the next budget cycle, but some of this stuff, we're probably just gonna have to.
Well, there would only be three, right? There'd be the sheriff's office, the county, and then,
Well, those are the three, yeah, and the tax
Tax-
assessor, you're
tax.
probably gonna have to try and raise that a little bit to get some more applicants, those are the three positions at the moment that probably need the most attention, and the rest we can hopefully wait another month or two, or until we get into the budget cycle, we can start working it out. Not trying to be unfair to anybody, but let's just face back, some of these departments need help now.
yeah, I think you're right
It's
there.
just, it's not gonna be good if we wait. It's not going away, and it's not getting any better. It's just, in the last month, we found out basically we lost a guy in each department in the last, what do you want to consider? So I mean, what's the question, I guess, or the main answer? I mean, do you wanna come up with a number that,
I think, I don't think there's a couple of days to put something together.
Well, I think we should look at that, if we're gonna adopt that one pay scale, we need to want to move it, and then let the departments work on it. Wait another month or two with some of the departments that they can fit it in there. Or are we just gonna get a number and then worry about fitting it into that pay scale?
well, I mean, the main thing is, I mean, we got the 18 steps here, I mean,
But you're looking at the one that Pam said.
yeah,
So, we had a department head meeting, and then Sheriff Sanders and I talked a little bit, like, the first 5 steps probably we don't really need. So I moved from step 5 is now the new step 1, so I added to the backside.
If you look at that sheet that you have there, hypothetically, like I said before, grade 1, step 5, take those numbers that are in step 5, put them in step 1 category, that whole document change. You're basically shifting everything left.
right, but if that was the case, then why don't you guys just change the grade?
Well, to a certain degree, and I've had that discussion off, yeah.
Right.
8,
Right, so under focus,
yeah,
I'm just using this sheet as an example that I have, okay? So let's just say you wanted to move step 7 as the new step 1. Okay, like let's just pick grade 5, step 7. I got that at $22.82 an hour. Well, if you go to a grade 6, then step 1's at $21.88, I mean, you're already kind of back in the ballpark. So instead of trying to reinvent the page, why don't you just move to the next grade? I mean, it's the same difference, I just start them out at that grade, be creating grade.
and again, grade now is also responsibility of others. But if you look at any of the grades in step, take any grade step, for the free school, to where you see anybody, I mean, at a grade 5 level,
Mm-hmm.
starting out at step one, probably not. I mean, right now, everybody's above. Just moving everything to the left, 4 or 5 steps. Readjust all those figures, so they remain in a step one.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of grade 5, step 7, they're now at grade 5, step 2. Especially if they only been here 2 years.
Because if you don't move it, Aaron, like, there's some people that are at 14, in 4 years, they're tapped out. In their steps.
Right, but that's what I'm just saying, with some of these people, you're starting out at the next grade, in the step one, then they got all the steps to go through. That's the point I'm trying, like, instead of cutting it in half, because right now, even our grades, I mean, those grades, some of the recommendations and stuff, it's not like we know that grade 8 everywhere in the state is this specific position or this meeting, it's the grade that we decide we're gonna start it at, and then from there, it goes. That's why.
If you take everybody's preference, today's salary, today, look at that salary number, where do they fit in here?
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna give you kind of an idea.
Right.
I mean, for example, down in the extension office, we started just 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe she's been classified as a step 4, or grade 4, step 10. So in 2 months, she's already at a grade 10. She's more than halfway through the steps in that position. That doesn't make any sense. And again, I'm not saying that about Pam, but I don't think Pam had all the information. She should probably be in somewhere in a grade 5, step 2, based on her current salary today, and only here 2 months. You know, she's already a step 10, and she's been here 2 months. That doesn't make any sense.
You know, Chairman Maker, I talked to Pam, or I emailed her, and I asked her if she'd be willing to do a final, and she said she would do that.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't the department heads just kind of put down what they want, give it to me, and then I can email it to her, and she can probably do it. Like,
Well, I
if
mean,
you know what you want your.
If it's great if Pam was willing to buy one, I didn't know she was not.
She told me she would, but
Okay.
I haven't talked to her for a couple of weeks now, but if you know what.
Right.
Give it, Skylar, you're the same, but you want them to start out as an hour or whatever. And I could try to email her and see if she'll do it. She told me she would finalize it.
If we just provide her the information and provide the new document, updated document.
I don't feel like to put a number in a grade. I, as a commissioner, not knowing some of these people. And Pam is the one that compiled this. I think she should have a final say, maybe I'm.
Well, she's got so much experience because she's an HR person.
I'm not an HR person.
She's got the degree to do.
Right, I'm not trying to classify anybody, I'm just looking at these numbers and I'm saying, well, these guys wanna start out at 7, 8s, and 9s. And I'm going, well, what's to stop them from just going to the next grade, and then just make sure that your other people are the next grade higher, there's all these grades, they're all really different from a couple bucks an hour, each grade from step to step. You know, you don't have to stay in this, well, I was told I'm supposed to be at a 7, and then my chief deputy or my foreman's supposed to be at an 8. Well, if your foreman's at 9 and the other one's at, it's the same grade, it's the same scale, they're gonna go along the same percentage, like $28 an hour is $28 an hour, whether you're a 7-12 or you're an 8-1, so why not just start that person at like an 8-1, then you have the entire step window, like, you'd be kinda doing what you said would happen to Ashley, if you're starting halfway in, now you're already limiting that person to the back half of the steps, instead of just starting out at the next grade and going that, and just make the grades where they need.
Well, and Pam provided that documentation,
Right.
explaining that number one, your grade should, part of that equation with grade you're in is your job description.
Right.
So it's not just, if you make X amount of money, this point already, you make.
Exactly,
What's your job?
my point is what's the difference if your newer deputies are a grade 5 and your chief deputy is at a grade 6? Or if your newer deputies are at a grade 6 and your other one's at a grade 7, as long as they're grades separate and the steps are within the means, it doesn't really matter what their grade is in that sense. Like, you're deciding what the grade should be with it, so.
I
And just a second though, Mike, what's up?
She said you're having a meeting up here, and I thought maybe I'd get my house approved, so you drop it off.
Oh, okay, you just got like a building permit?
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah, I just drop it off.
Yeah.
You guys can deal with it.
yeah, we can do it at the end of the meeting here.
Yeah, whatever.
No, that's fine, I just, yeah, if you had something going on.
Okay, no, that's all I had, just so I'll take off.
Oh. Well, that's easy enough, no, that's good. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, well, we can look into that.
I think, Sheriff Sanders is right in that you have to look at the grade. Because if someone in this department is a grade 5 and they're doing they have the same responsibilities and the same, requirements as someone in another department, they should be a 5. That's where Ashley got into trouble, is because she's a 4. Well, she's doing a lot of the same stuff other people in other departments are doing, but as far as work, as far as responsibility, but she's at a 4, so they put her at a 10, so her wage is the same, but really, her grade should be the same. Same thing with all other departments. If someone is a deputy auditor, a deputy clerk, a deputy, not necessarily a sheriff's deputy, that's a different deputy, but if they have the same responsibilities and the same, amount of work, and mostly the responsibility, then their grades should be the same. And their steps will take care of the longevity, and their steps will take care of whether or not they have more qualifications or not. That's what, that's, looking at this, that's the real inequity I see in here. So if you are bumping up a road maintainer, operator, up, just so you can give them more money, so you're bumping them up grades, but he doesn't have more responsibility than he did before. You have the same problem. You're gonna have the same.
No, but I'm not talking about bumping up a grade just for that. I'm talking about where we have no grades and steps right now. We're just starting out.
But what I'm
So don't
saying is,
pigeonhole yourself into like,
if somebody is a grade operator, I mean, a operator, and they're at a grade 7, and maybe they're a step 14 and they quit. So someone that's coming in that has the same job, should they not be at the same grade? Maybe step 1, because they don't have the experience, but shouldn't they be there? Because my understanding of this is your grade isn't your longevity, your grade is your responsibilities. So if I have the same responsibility as someone else, we should be the same grade.
Well, you're right to a certain point, but you also gotta look at other factors like authority. You gotta look at responsibilities.
And that's all part of part of the grade.
Well, yeah, but the one thing, and I said this during the department meetings, let's not, as employees, let's not get into this, well, they're a grade 5, so I should be a grade 5. Or, you have to look at the job description and everything else. A good example is my office deputy, okay, Christie. Yes, she does a lot of the similar tasks that a lot of the other women that work downstairs do that. But along with that, there are requirements of hers that are not required of others. You must pass an FBI background check. You must be certified in NCIC. And there's a gamut of different things. Because I can't hire just anybody in that position. If you can't pass an FBI background check, you cannot work in that sheriff's office. Craig, our maintenance guy, had to pass an FBI background check just to have keys to get to my office. The part-time maintenance person, his mother that works, she had to go through that process just to get into my office. That's federal law and regulations for it because of the computer systems, access to the information, all that stuff. If I want to hire somebody and I think they're a really good person and they can't pass, I can't even get them in the computer system. I can't get them access to half the programs that we even operate. I don't even have one to. So there are different things. You have a blade operator that is a grade 7, but you also have a grade operator that's a grade 8. Why? He's a supervisor. He's responsible to supervise and others. There's more responsibility, there's more authority with them. They might be a blade operator, but you've got
Right.
one or two that
That's
are.
that's right, but I mean, listen, I fully understand the grade and step thing, my point, my whole point is, we don't have any grades or steps yet.
Right.
We have recommendations on a sheet,
Right.
and we're trying to figure out how we want them as Emmons County to work so we can get people in the door. Why, if you're gonna pay someone $26.30, okay? And then that would make them a step 7-11, right? Well, now you've just pigeonholed this person where they're only gonna have a handful of steps before they're basically maxed out and they're only gonna get their cost of living. So why not, if that person's gonna make the same hourly wage, start them at the next grade? Like, we have a chance to start out, so why wouldn't you start all the grades towards the lower steps if it's the same hourly wage? Instead of focusing on the steps, almost everybody, to a point, or at least several of these people, especially the newer employees, should be starting on the lower steps and making the grade a little higher, so you have this entire window to work with, so you don't run into the grade cap.
And that's
And
exactly.
every department might be a little bit different, like you might have some departments where that wage they wanna be at, maybe hits a 7.5, so you start, but nobody should be starting out past probably a step 9, because if that's the case, then you need to start selecting where your grade needs to be, so that way everybody's got room to grow. I mean, you're gonna have a couple hot positions because of tenure and stuff, but you don't want to be starting a new deputy at like a 7-11. If they're here for 30 years, they have to become the chief deputy or the sheriff to get a grade raise. That doesn't make any sense.
Right, and that's what Tim said.
Right.
They have an employee that already is grade 7, 11. They're in here 6 years.
Right.
They're gonna top all max up here before they enter their, you don't want that. So you may wanna consider putting them in higher grade. But it goes back to my other, you take step 5, all the categories, move them to the left. And now I was step 5, I'm now at a step 1, where I'm currently, my current wage is, where I do, you're just changing those figures. You don't
But still keep the 18 steps and just extrapolate the 2% out even further then, or eliminate half them steps?
Well, what I did is I moved step 5, so it's grade 1 now, step 1 is 1739. And then the end one would be 2435.
Which would be still a step 18.
Step 18, there's still 18.
So you just extrapolated everything on
Yeah.
2% afterwards, you just
Yeah.
cut the first 5 or 6 steps off.
And that made it easy for me, and then, well, I have, the way I kind of just roughly figured these, I have I have 4 different pay grades. Because I have, because I have an equipment operator 1s, no CDLs. I got equipment operator 2s that are CDLs and they've got some experience and stuff like that, and I got equipment operator 3, that's the road, and then the other one will be the office. So that's how so when equipment operator 1 gets a CDL, he's gonna move to it too, probably in the same, he'll move a different step, but he'll probably be the same pay scale, or maybe $1 more if we get this, so then they'll all be, a lot of them will be in, using 4 different steps, or 4 different pay grades. And when I moved from step 5 and put it to number 1, nobody's past the midpoint. The highest guy is at a mid, step 9. So that means we have 9.
Right, and that's the point I'm getting at, is you really need to have enough job descriptions within your department to move up the grades, because otherwise, if you're gonna start everybody, like you said, if you're gonna be at a grade 7, but you can't even touch anybody until you get to a step 9 or 10, well, you're already defeating the purpose of the grades and steps, because like you said, you're creating a ceiling already, to where that person might not have the opportunity to get to another job description. You need to have the job descriptions to move to the grades, and so that, the way you're recommending it, is that makes a lot more sense in that general term, because like you said, once you get your CDL and it's a big enough move, you might move them an entire grade, and then they stay there for 10 years. So then you have the steps to work with. Well, then they decide they want to take on a blade route, they're doing a good enough job, you move them to the next grade, and then they take that spot for a while, then eventually maybe they do move into the superintendent role or foreman, then there's another grade at least, so that way you have a lot of steps for someone that's working a long time in the same type position. And if they inherit more responsibilities, you have enough grade mobility that you can move them. I mean, that's where you have to kind of build it in. I think if you have, I mean, that's my big thing, is that you just don't wanna go and start this whole process, then like you said, you create a scenario where now the grade movement's impossible, cause there really isn't a movement in that position or in that department to go to that next level,
Never
so.
given that chance.
Well, right, that's what I mean, you get somebody who's already the chief deputy at a step 17, it's like, well, what's the next move, other than to become a sheriff or something, I mean, that's the only thing, so. You just don't wanna get too far into it, that's why, and that's the only reason why this discussion really needs to happen, is just let everybody's on the same page, and we're making sure we're not just throwing numbers out at the wall, we're doing it with some decision making.
And later on, in this case, you know, you can add more steps.
Right, I mean, right, you can do that too, but that's like
There's
you
no
said,
living document.
every time you add a number to this, it changes the rest of them though too, so it's editable, but yet it's kind of difficult to change, you wanna make sure you're starting at a position where you're not constantly changing your scales and your steps and your grades.
I think there's gonna be a document out there.
Well, that's.
It's not. Even the current system we have today, not our. Like, good reason.
Well, I think the big thing now, just for the sake of time now, is I think you guys need to come up with where you think you need to be to start recruiting people. I mean, you have a pretty good idea, you've obviously reached out to other entities in order you know about it from the guys that are leading, and, you need to probably look at getting somewhere close to it. What do you think, and then probably submit it to Pam, and she can put it together.
Okay.
But at the same time, I mean, you probably need to get on it, because that's something, I would like to list those jobs with them yourself. Right, we need to get on it, so we can start recruiting people.
If you like, take down,
Right, that's what I mean, it's something that needs
So
to.
we might not even have another
I
one.
guess if we need to, have a special meeting
Shoot,
or
so
the
I-
next meeting,
Well, yeah, Pam resigned, she did give us about a month notice, and on top of that, she did say she'd have us like this if she.
After she resigned, I asked her if she would find us.
Right, so I mean, she's pretty much done taking questions and concerns, but she still was willing to help us out with this, just to get it where we need to go, so. I think the big thing is we need to just get on it fast.
Okay.
And like you said, if we have some information in a week or two, we can call a special meeting.
Yeah, I think rather than.
I mean, yeah.
I would say this, then closing that department head needs to sit down and submit that information to Marlis as a point of contact
Yeah.
and forward that to Pam.
I mean, we had enough of a meeting today to know that we need to get some meeting.
Is there a date you want for that, Marlis?
Well, I'm thinking sooner. I'd like to send her one email, so
Right, yeah.
if everybody can have everything to me by Monday,
Okay,
and then I'll get
Do
it.
the departments want to have a meeting on their own before everybody submits it? 'Cause I just wanna know if we're gonna keep it with step one, or we're moving 5 steps first. That'll determine where I'm gonna submit myself.
I think based on, to provide that information to Marlis, and then Marlis, in your communication with Pam, you can explain to her that, because I had that conversation with Pam.
Recently you did, or?
2-3 weeks back, maybe at least 3. And that was about if you were to take step 5 and move everything just left, like Scott was talking about, she said, oh yeah, you can do that. And I said, because step 1 in any of those grades, nobody's there right now. Nobody, even the brand new employees been here 2 months aren't even there. They're 7, 8, 9, so sliding everything to the left, adjusting those figures, so that instead of being at a step 14, now you're at step 6 or whatever it is.
So what you're gonna give me is like, where you want Chris right now, what grade and what step? and where
Yep,
you-
what grade, job
Mark,
description,
yeah, you've got
and the reason, the justification for it.
On which one, on hers, or moving the 5 steps?
Well, I think just moving the 5 steps is something that you can just briefly, on behalf of everyone in the county commissioner, just for some feedback.
Yeah.
We as department head, provide that information, Marlis, on where you believe your employee should be at, grade and step, based on, even what, you gotta take into consideration their current salary. And provide that to Marlis and the photo.
Correct, because like I can fit, if I move everybody 5, it works out for me. Doesn't mean it's gonna work out for the rest of the That's what one. So just that we're all working on the same one and I'm not doing something different than you guys, but I guess I can submit this to Pam.
Well, you look at where your employees currently are today and where you'd like to see them tomorrow. And that's really what you need to submit tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. So you want them on by Monday?
If you can, that'd be nice.
By the end of the business.
Yes, Monday.
So are you advertising it at all? Are you advertising it still?
Yes, yeah, have been for,
County too, to employees?
Well, I don't know what to do with tax director.
Well, tax director, you might as well wait, I mean, because it's closed again now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well just leave it closed and we'll negotiate that as a part of this whole process and then we'll have to relist it with the.
Okay, so don't list it right now?
No, I'd say don't list it until at least till after Pam gets, go till Monday, get the information to Pam. Hopefully we can come to a better resolution on where we're at with some of these spots and then we'll relist some of these jobs.
It's a lot of extra work for everybody, but we're not seeing it.
Well, you know, a lot of extra work for everybody is when people quit too, so we're gonna have to get on it, we're just, so, your commissioners are behind you, but you're gonna have to put the work in to put where you wanna start these spots out, and as far as Joe's question earlier with the existing courthouse employees and stuff, I think we can still address it, but we're just gonna probably push that off a little bit more to the budget cycle, but if there's complications or issues or adjustments, then we can look at it with the budget cycle, but we're just really focusing at least on these 3 departments that we need to get people recruited in.
I'll send my job descriptions into,
Well, send them all into Marcy, I guess, for money too, it's not just these departments, but I mean, that's where the urgency's just coming in.
But Joe, I want you to tell me what grade you.
yeah, no, I'll,
Right, send all your recommendations, same with the clerk and the clerk's office too and stuff, I mean.
So if someone is in the road department, or in the sheriff's department, or in the state's attorney, or the clerk's office, or the auditor, and they're step 7, because that's their job description, does that mean they're all gonna have this, and they're all step 7-1? They all should have the same pay then, right?
Well, they would be.
Yeah,
Well,
they're the
what-
same
so
step,
what
same
I'm saying
grade.
is, if they're moving everything over, then everyone's gonna be bumped up, right? If you're moving, so it's gonna be adjustment for everyone.
Well, the entire step and grade is gonna move, that's for sure, and then, but where these guys wanna start in their steps and grades, everybody's gonna be basically, I mean, this is your chance to start your department out where you think you want it to start. But it will move, I mean, it would move everybody's, just, it really wouldn't move, what it's gonna do is just, it's gonna create where the first 4 or 5 columns, the first 4 or 5 steps are gonna get eliminated. And the whole thing's gonna move over, and then the steps that are created behind it now, if step 5 becomes step 1, then all the other steps after, they're still gonna be 2%, everything's gonna be it's gonna be
So someone
extracted,
who's
so.
currently at step 3 is gonna be pushed to step 5.
Well, it would be something like that, I mean,
Right.
that's where Pam's gonna have to look at how that all adjusts.
Yeah, and that's why I said if we do that, like I can fit it in there, but the other department heads have to make sure they can fit it in.
Right.
I mean, those other departments, I mean, we're just doing it here because we're trying to recruit somebody, right? So what about all the other departments?
Well, that's, like I said, we're gonna have to manage these, when Pam moves to put some of this stuff in, we'll see where to put some of these other steps and stuff, and some of them.
the other one.
Be adjusted or, for the end, for its fares. You're basically gonna be looking at everybody's wages if you look at one, but you focus on a couple of these departments anyway, so it's gonna essentially change the whole step and grade process for everybody. I think we could argue that we probably could justify changing everyone, every department probably needs to get looked at, I don't think that's unfair to say. It's just that some of them have a little more urgency right now, just because we're so short-handed. So, I would say give your input to Pam, give it to Marcy by Monday, so she can get it to Pam, we'll get a new look at a new step and grade system, and hopefully there's just a few minor adjustments and the rest of it's worked out.
So then that also means if you're above a step 5, everyone's gonna get a raise.
Well, I think everybody's almost gonna
In
probably some
addition
kind
to
of
what we
change.
got already.
No, because if you're at step 5 and it gets moved to a step 1, you're just considered a step 1 then, but your wages are gonna change. You're just taking the column and moving it over, so it's just that the steps behind it are gonna change, but if you're a 7-3 or a 7-5 and that column gets changed, I mean, your hourly rate's really not gonna change, it's your step might change.
So then you're gonna go from a 7-5 to a 7-1.
You're right, but your wage might not change.
Right.
Right, but your title would go from 7-5 to a 7. But if your hourly wage doesn't change, it really doesn't matter, if anything, it just creates more room for you inside your.
You're on, but currently, then, your the step would go back, but your wage would stay the same.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, it may not change the wage, but it will change the.
right.
Yeah.
And some of the wages might change a little bit, because if there's a weird in the middle, you might get a 10-cent difference or a 50-cent difference or something like that. There might be room for it anyway, so it might work out better for everybody, so. It's every department get their information in, like we said, try and get it in, Don would say try, get it in by Monday. And we'll get Pam working on it so she can help us out, and then I'm sure she's ready to be done with us too, so let's get it sorted out, and then from there we can finalize something and start getting these positions filled. Good enough.
Well, if Pam can't do it for a month, then what?
Something tells me Pam will be willing to do it just to get it done, so I would have to say it's probably gonna get
When
expedited.
she turned in her resignation,
Yeah, but what if she says she
I
can't?
asked her if she would be willing to
Yeah, but what if she
finalize,
says,
but she
I won't
didn't.
do it for a month, I can't get it done for a month, then what?
Well,
I don't think it'll take that long, because she's really gotta just make a couple amendments versus reinventing the wheel now, so I don't think it'll take that long.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Being that I'm newly appointed to the position starting July 1st, what grade and step do I start at?
Well, we don't know, because we don't have a grade and step program approved right now.
So do I start where I'm at, or do I start at the previous, clerk recorder's position?
I think
Where
she should,
stops?
she should start at my position, she comes in very well, approved for this job. She's got 16 years experience on the clerk side. She has over a year and a half on the recorder side. You can't find a better candidate. I really think she should come in at what I'm at. Because last year, I didn't get much of a raise, so compared to other elected officials.
Well, I mean, we already budgeted for that wage for that position, so I mean, I don't know if I have a problem
Well,
with that. so.
and I agree, it's just, yeah, you know, she is well qualified, I agree 100%. It's just that, that's the problem I have, is that she comes in at the wage you're making, where you're here 45 years and you should have been making more.
I know I should have, but
Yeah.
I'm not.
But I know,
So that's why she should start at what I am at now.
that would have been the right place, yeah, and then you should have been, yeah, you should have been higher,
I should
without a
have,
doubt.
I should have got what the other officials got, but I didn't.
Yeah. But,
How big a discrepancy was it? It's a big discrepancy.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think the big thing is, like you said, if we're trying to match these offices and get them where we think they should be, then, I mean, we're already budgeted for that position, she becomes that new position, I mean, I don't see a problem with
So it was,
having moved to Anita's wage.
Kathy's what, at 46 now?
Well, that's not right, though, that's the projected, or the,
Oh,
I don't think that's the actual, that stuff that Pam gave us was where we would be. I don't think you can go off that, you have to go off of something different, probably the budget book or something.
Anita's at 7.
so it's about $10,000 more almost.
Well, like I said, I mean, if Kathy would've won an election today, she would've started at that wage, I'm sure, because that budget, that election, need bring an elected official in at a different wage, I'm sure we can do it, which they were at previously, it's budgeted, I don't see that.
Why you laughing, Nick? Because I just remember when Greg and that he lowballed the new person's salary, so the new state attorney paid it really, really good.
same thing happened to me. When I started, they lowered that salary down to the deputy was, and that's what I worked at, so.
Well, starting out at a low salary, he hasn't worked in a few other departments, there's no point starting at every other, but it's just, let's face it, we need to keep the people we have, and we need to recruit other people in here, so. I've said it about 400 times today, I'm tired of saying it, so. I guess I'd have a motion that we, with Kathy's new position, that she would receive the same pay that Anita was making, it's basically the recorder and county clerk and recorder's pay, budgeted for, that's the position.
How many years' experience did you have before Kathy?
Like 16 and a half, before I came.
As a clerk, as a clerk.
He deputy clerk.
In Bismarck.
Anybody wanna make that motion? I'm gonna be here all night at this rate, let's go. If not, make a motion to what you're gonna amend the pay to then. Cause I don't think getting paid what she's currently getting paid is making sense. And
So what actually is it if this isn't right? Just the number if it's not right.
I don't know, you'd have to look, cause that sheet there is Pam's, that was the 2024 pay, that was 2024 budget, that was, it's not even approved yet, that was just kind of an assumed number to see where things were gonna go at, you'd have to go out 2022 budgets. Yeah, I don't know, well, we can have to just look it up or something, I don't know.
Can't make a motion unless somebody is.
Right, well, I mean,
She
like,
would move from 45,342 up to $56,108.40.
So 43 to 50, 76. 43 to what?
Oh, let me go through it again for you. She would move from $45,342 up to $56,108.40.
All those figures are.
is that the right number though? That's this
Yeah,
year's
that's-
current budgeted salary?
okay.
That's the right, that is the number? Not all everybody tells me is that none of these sheets are right, so I didn't know if that was a good thing to go up.
The current salaries are correct.
Oh. What do you guys wanna do? You wanna just be an auctioneer, start raising hands till something comes to it, or I mean? I'll just tell you, I mean, if she's the new clerk recorder, she's gonna have to run for election to maintain the job. That job is already budgeted for that, she's more than qualified. I don't see any reason to offer her any less than what Anita was making, she's filling that role, she's become the new person, I mean, I don't see any reason to change anything or change, we already have an agreed upon wage, salary in that department. And it's just like we've talked about all over again, we're gonna always start a new person out at this lower rate and start everybody lower, and we're working on raising wages and raising things up here,
I
so.
know, I agree with
I
you.
mean, I don't- there's
She
really-
should be at that, the problem I have is that Anita should have been paid more in January. That's the problem I have.
Right, but Anita wasn't paid more in January, now Anita's retiring, so now the right way to do it is
I
to
know, that's the
maintain
right thing, but it's
Kathleen
like-
at the new rate and work it up from there, not start out lower again now and have to keep working it up, because if that position is underpaid, I mean, you're not gonna find a lot of people with that experience in that
No, I
department anyway,
totally
so,
agree with
and it's an
that.
elected position, so the next person running for it might not have any experience in it, and that, with an elected position, those wages, I mean, they kinda have to be at a certain spot, I mean, if you're gonna even give candidates to run for it, I mean, it's the whole deal, I mean, there's already a budget amount for it, nothing really changes.
I guess I'll make a motion to, oh,
Commissioner Materi makes a motion to pay Kathleen. Is it Kathy or Kathleen? I'm sorry.
Either way.
It's both. Okay, so I'm both right and wrong. Good.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Materi makes a motion to pay Kathy down to the existing salary that Anita was making. Basically maintaining the current wage for the recorder and clerk of courts. Seconded by Commissioner Everly. Is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, that's it for the agenda items, we're done with the bill, well, one more building permit, did Josh, did you look into it? Is it okay?
Yeah. It's putting, mobile homes. Over yards, so. The problem is setback, that would be. Yeah. Which you need to get in there, so.
What's the easy?
Who?
Where'd you from out there? West of Hazen, everyone in the bush fire place? Yeah, it's not, yeah. They live on the old horse fire place. Yeah, the issues with it, looks like it's out on the farm, it's out way off there.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, motion to approve table deny a building permit for Mike Alderson to be replacing a house on their farm. Motion by Commissioner Terry to approve, second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Emily. Opposed,
Were we done? Were we done with Skylar?
Do what?
I said, are we done with Skylar? Wasn't there some more?
maybe, I don't know, show you what it's been. When you're used to these 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock meetings, 4 o'clock seems like.
I want you to. Just so that they don't my part.
Yeah, so what you submitted here, it looks like we have somebody that's basically tracking the whereabouts of Skylar, and he's using the county pickup. Yeah, I texted Aaron Magrum, and Aaron Magrum didn't respond, well, I can tell you what Aaron Magrum didn't respond. And I don't like these people going around stalking these employees and picking on every little thing they're doing all the time. I can tell you one thing with Skylar using the county pickup. I'm gonna tell you, I've said this before, but I guess I'll repeat it. I even thought for a while, I'm like, my gosh, they're asking him all the time, what's going on? Well, I asked around both the employees and Skylar, and what happens is there's times when he's going to the road, like wet, ugly gravel road, he's gonna drive the pickup up there. Well, if he's driving up northwest of Hazelton at 5 o'clock to look at a road or flag a road, why would you have him drive all the way back to Linton just to get his vehicle to drive all the way back to Bismarck when he's probably gonna be stopping by another spot that same day? The other thing too is he's also combining where he's picking up parts and stuff like that. Now, they pick up parts more often in Bismarck now that he drives there, probably, they can maybe have some more things delivered and stuff, but I can tell you, I have mine, guys pick up stuff for me in Bismarck all the time. I pay them mileage when they use their vehicles, or I let them use my company truck. I mean, I've asked them and I've gone over it with the employees, I haven't really found anything that, I mean, is he using it maybe more often than he should in the aspect that, yeah, he could've got away with that time, probably. But every road superintendent has always used the county truck to drive around and pick up parts, look at roads.
Well, Nick had it all the time. I mean,
Well,
Nick
and,
used
you
it.
know, I'm just saying, these
I
guys,
lived in the county, and I go along with some of this,
Right.
some of these guys talk. I had it yesterday with 3 other guys, and I said, well, I don't know what you guys granted him for an allowance, did you give him $3,000?
yeah, well, we
Fuel
didn't,
allowance, you
no,
just
we
looked it
didn't do a fuel allowance, we didn't do any of that. These rumors about fuel allowances and we didn't. He asked for a certain wage and then he asked to use the county pickup. We didn't like that idea because it was open-ended. And then what he asked for is he asked for a couple more $1,000s in salary and we granted that. We met him about in the middle of the salary range.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Right, but I'm telling you because a lot of these people go around and they made I had somebody go, are we still paying his fuel stipend? There was never a fuel stipend. Oh, is he done using the county truck? I thought you guys were stopping that after a year. When was there ever an agreement that that was never the case? And you know, before Skylar was in the position, John, or Gar, Nick, Francis, them guys drove to Bismarck for parts and things all the time. They drove the truck all over the place for things. The only difference is that Skylar lives in Bismarck, so now people are viewing it as abuse, when the simple fact is, anytime there's ever any inkling of county work, these guys are jumping in the county truck versus their own vehicle. And I don't know if I blame them on that fairly, because why use your own vehicle to go check roads or flag roads or do anything? So, I don't really see anything that's going on here other than that, yeah, he does live in Bismarck, he's probably taking advantage of the fact that when they need parts, he's doing it rather than sending an employee up in the middle of the day like they used to. But then guys have been traveling back and forth to Bismarck during the day and work days ever since I was commissioner, and I always said it seemed like a lot, but stuff breaks, they can't get it in time, it might not get delivered till morning, and he get that afternoon, well, he goes up and picks it up in the evenings or directly in the morning before he comes down. So sometimes he does not get down here till 8:30, because he had to get into Butler right away, when everybody else is at the shop at 7. My guys are the same way, when I have guys pick up stuff, they don't get into the shop at 8 o'clock like we normally do, they might not get in until 9, maybe 9:30 if there was a bunch of people there when they were loading stuff.
I just gotta ask, because I hear, and I wasn't on the board when you hired.
Right, I'm not picking
You know,
on you,
and I'm
Brother
not
Dan,
trying to-
I have a general
You know what I'm
tone to
saying?
these couple individuals
And I
that
know
never
it.
had an issue with any of this until a specific individual has the job and their guy does it, now it's a problem. Now all of a sudden it has to get picked on, now it's gotta get documented, days on a calendar. But nobody ever told us about the times when, like you said, when Nick had 80,000 miles on that pickup in 1 year. And you know what? That probably was all justified too, because it's a huge county. I've driven, the day that I went up and looked at Judy Carlson's road, way up there in the northeast part of the county, I had to go down to Cattail for a service call. That is a drive, guys. It's
I
a
know.
huge county. I mean,
Emmons is a big county.
if you went through and audited every minute, yeah, are these guys using every exact minute, every day perfectly? Are they taking an exact lunch break? Are they, no, you can go around and start finding reasons to fire these guys and penalize them for everything. And you heard Steve Eisen today. You're gonna go around and make a big deal about every little thing that's not perfect on certain guys, you're not gonna have one guy working here. And I think it's totally unfair that this one individual in particular seems to like to pick on Skylar because Skylar got the job and he didn't. And that's the reason I don't respond to his texts, because I've been over it 1,000 times, we've repeated it over and over, and I'm tired of it. We wanna submit this as information, sure. Skylar's not gonna debate any of this, he probably did drive the pickup all them days. And John Ibach and Gar and anybody that was working with that deal will tell you that, because I'm sure it's 2:33 in the afternoon and Skylar goes, hey, I'll pick up those parts at Butler today, and I know Skylar's taking a semi and hauled a dozer at home at 7 o'clock at night, because guess what, he's going to Bismarck anyway. So he drove the semi home with the dozer, dropped it off at Butler, I don't even know where he parked his truck for the night, and brought the semi back home in the morning. I would call that efficiency in a lot of ways.
So who submitted that?
Well, I can tell you, it was Troy Reddick.
Troy.
And he's upset about it, and he's texted me several times, and I don't respond to it because we've been over it.
And I got it, so I'm just submitting it.
Right, and I'm not picking on you
I know.
specifically, but it irritates me to this, because it's like, we're talking all
And I
day.
knew what it would agitate.
We're talking all day about trying to keep guys and trying to keep guys working. Skylar ran an entire blade route all winter doing snow removal, and he's done everything we've asked him to do. And now we're gonna sit here and let these petty squabbles target these guys until they quit. And it did happen with David Crum, and it was a big nonsense mess too. Forced us into action, and we had to do things we weren't even happy about, and he ended up quitting. Tired of these petty squabbles amongst these individual employees, and it's, you wanna have a recruiting problem in the county, have crap like this all the time. It's not right. I'm frustrated with it. And if they have a problem with it, everybody knows my number, I can ignore your text, I can tell you what, it's frustrating. We're sitting here trying to come up with wages and get guys and people to wanna work here, and then you have crap like this where they're gonna sit here and follow them on their breaks and all that, it's not. There's nothing these guys are, well, there's nothing that these guys are doing that's breaking any laws or breaking this county. They're not doing things out here where we're like, where's all this gas going, these pickups are built to use, these guys are picking parts of it, yeah, so they swung into the grocery store on the way home from Butler, we don't fire these guys for it, it's just absurd, I'm just so frustrated with it.
I got one other thing I'd like to bring up.
Well, we're done with the agenda item, so I hope it's something relatively similar.
Well, it would be with the, with the wages.
Okay,
Okay. With Anita, yeah, I'm just gonna bring this up, whatever, okay, she's been here 45 years. And in my opinion, she's kinda got shafted on this last wage increase. Is there something we can do to rectify it or not?
I don't think so, I mean, she's retired. I mean, it's,
You could throw, to go to a back pay, then that would raise up the wage on the other one. The only other thing is you throw a bonus or something, I don't know, I'm throwing it out there.
yeah, I mean, I don't really feel like that wage is that out of line, I just don't,
It's hard, I know what you're saying, like if you had a job and I had a job, I was a young kid and you were working there for 30 years, now I come in and make the same wage that you do when you quit.
I know,
But she's the one that made the.
I know she did, but
I know.
I just, you know, she's making it because she's there working with her, and, you know, the good of her, that's what you would do,
Yeah,
the
right.
same way. But the same token inside, you know, it isn't right, it ain't right, you know, that's the problem, but
I don't know, I mean,
I just thought, you know,
I mean, it's the same issue that we had even with the road superintendent's office. You have a guy like Nick Lawler who started out as blade guy, worked his way up to road superintendent. All the years of raises and stuff got him to where his wage was, but let's admit the fact that where he was starting out was pretty low.
Yeah, he was.
Then we got Francis, who didn't take the job for money, he took it because he wanted the job, took the same pay.
right.
We knew at some point, we were,
It's gotta be
if
higher.
any one of them guys would've came in and said, I need another 10,000 a year, I'm underpaid, I don't think anybody would probably argue with it.
Well, see, that's even like Nick too, he was making less money than the operators were.
Right, but in Nick's mind, he was still
Exactly.
making a decent
But
wage,
he-
because for the
that was
years,
his
he was,
choice, so-
yeah, well,
I mean,
but I'm saying even like with Anita's wages were really low when she started out through the years of the courthouse, and over the years, she's gotten wages and raises, and then,
It's
and
just-
it's the same raises almost everybody's gotten, because that's the way we've always done things, and
I guess I was
maybe
just
that
looking at
position-
with the 45 years, if a person should throw a bonus in or something, I don't know.
well, I think that's kind of what we're trying to figure out with this step and grade thing, where we're trying to, you know, make it so it's, you started the precedent and now you're doing that, and now you're doing it for everybody too, and I think we just have to admit that some of these positions, maybe we were a little low on, and that's why going forward with Kathy, you try and start her out at, so you keep that wage competitive with other counties in the state, and I don't think there's anything you can really do without kind of reinventing the wheel, I mean, causing something you can't fix, and I don't really agree with the fact that that wage is that out of line, I mean, I'm looking at it and thinking that it's,
Take a look at this.
you know, I mean, is it maybe a little on the low side, I suppose we compare it to other counties, probably.
Well, I think 60 would have been a good average.
You know,
But it's behind us.
she's retired now, or?
he seems okay with it, I mean,
Oh, you can see she's a little disgruntled, I could tell it.
She is, yeah.
I mean, I've been employed by different places and I never was never 100% par. You just live with what is, and so we have to move on.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, you just move on.
So these are pictures from the neighbors of Kevin Evenson saying that they're having a mouse and rat infestation because of his property.
So we're saying.
who sent that in?
That's either Ken and Joe's joke,
I know, what's her name beside there,
Nominal?
Miss Monaco.
no, the other one.
Mrs. Moss and Mrs. Volk.
It used to be Judy Van Beek, but she sold.
Yep, Judy Van Beek, that gal, she works at
The hospital, yeah.
She works for Trish there, and she said, you know, she's complaining about that too, all the time. When are they gonna clean that, when are they gonna clean that?
Well, the issue that we have too is, like I said, we had offered it to Trash Incorporated, well now, it sounds like Trash Incorporated is for sale. And might not be operating anymore, so that's not really an option, so now like Joe said, he's looking to like Aero Cleaning Services or something, I mean, historically, the county had done it, but I mean, like I said, with the conversations we had today, that's not an option, so we're gonna have to find someone that's willing to clean it up.
That's gotta be such a disaster inside that.
Well, it's a pretty big mess, so I mean, that's where we've gone through the process we have, now the process is we're trying to find someone to clean it up, and if we can't find anybody to clean it up.
Then we'll have, so the commissioners have to.
Well,
You can't pay for this job.
that's right, yeah, that's right, campaign for it,
They will run the side.
go cleaning up people's yards.
You know, the person else went to go.
Well, that's.
I'm sure about,
Just go. Just which we can say.
So Dave took off then? Must not have that. I haven't seen it for a bit, but now I see my hands been. Yeah. Maybe you should take my spot there, that way you can. Yeah, I was scouting here, that's what we want to discuss there.
See, Eric, you have 6 minutes
What's
left.
he gonna do?
Otherwise, as far as the meeting, it's going to.
Start with the like, we're here, it's forum, session. Yeah, no, we're not adjourning, it's court.